Hello and welcome to Nollywood Film Club. I am Mr. C of Lyrical Critic. I hope you're doing well. Um, it's been a good week. I don't often talk about how the podcast is doing because we're relatively new. I do have I have big goals for the podcast, but I need to appreciate some of you guys who have been listening and supporting from different countries. When we look at the backlog, we see obviously we see Germany and Australia and Canada, Hungary. Shout out to Hungary. Hungary has a higher percentage than we would have thought, but thank you so much. United States, the UK, and obviously Nigeria. So big shout out to everyone who's listening from whatever country. Guinea is one that I always get surprised by, but um, I'm hoping at some point that when I unroll what I have planned, hopefully we'll see these numbers begin to go up and our community begin to grow even larger. But in the meantime, we discussed a movie, a new Netflix original from a very experienced filmmaker that I still actually admire till today, just because of how Nigerian his film continues to feel, if not for anything. But it always brings up an interesting discussion. You notice the good, bad, and pushback is almost split evenly. And that's always a healthy sign of a good discussion. But without much more yippee yappy yapping from me, I hope you enjoy Nollywood Film Club discussing Ijogbon. All right. Okay. Welcome to Nollywood Film Club, everybody. We do discuss Nollywood films on this blessed platform, 6 p.m. Watt. Last Sunday we did a conversation, and it was a very good, productive conversation. I listened to it, and I actually liked it even more because sometimes it's easier to you don't when I'm hosting, I'm doing other things. My mind is not always 100% with you guys, but listening, um it's different whole vibe. But this Sunday we are going to be discussing Ijogbon, um and Kunle Afolayan's I've lost count. I'm gonna go with sixth Netflix original. It might be seven or eight, to be honest. We'll discuss what we liked. We'll discuss what we didn't like, and we will do pushbacks if there's time for pushback. All right. Timmy, what did you like about Ijobo?
Mm, First and foremost, I would like to appreciate I would like to extend my appreciation towards Kunle Afolayan and his team for this film. I saw that on one of Netflix posts that the village Oyoki was crafted from the um what's the word, amalgamation of 4 or 5 different villages in Oyo State. And the establishing shots at the beginning of the film that introduced the audience to the world of Oyoki was nothing short of stunning. Everyone has made mention of how Kunle Afolayan pays attention to details in his films, and that was very, very evident in this. From the beginning of the film, when the cars were on the chase, and you could see how dusty the cars were, to the continuity between scenes and the authenticity of the characters, the attention to detail was spectacular. There was nothing I loved more about this film than the characters. The teenagers felt very real. They were relatable. They were distinct. They had perfect chemistry, and they were consistent. What even makes the film better is how the plot progresses because of the characters and um, the decisions that they make and their reaction towards events in the film. They were all true to who they were. They were all they were all true to the different characters and their distinct natures. Talking about chemistry and attention to detail, one can understand the sort of closeness and familial relationship that exists between these kids. You can see it in the way Omoba refers to Jamiu as Egbon and Ronti as Brother Ronti or Egbon Ronti. You can tell that even though there is, will I say, a significant gap between their ages, you can see how what's his name, Omoba respects these people that he hangs out with, and that just shows you how close these people are. We can also see at the beginning of the film how close Jamil and Obi were, even though the romantic relationship between them wasn't overtly expressed through their interactions and actions. You could see a sort of affection between them. You could see how how close they were with the considerate way they spoke to each other, with how they cared about each other. Even Bronte's love at the end, towards the end of the film, where Bronte was like, "Oh, I still love you. Is it I still love you? I still like you." Even Bronte's love for Obi wasn't just out of the blue. I remember the scene when, in the cave, when what's his name, Jamie was talking about Obi, and you could just see the way Ramsey was looking at Jamil and Obi. Um, the guy who acted, what's his name, Jamil Kayode Ojolape, he is a star. You see, in fact, all the actors in this film, they are all stars. But him, he was the standout performer for me because he had presence in every single scene he was in. I remember the scene when they were in the cave after finding the diamonds and they were wondering what they would do with them. There was this shot where he was in the center of the frame, and I just told myself that this guy was born to be on camera. He was born to be a movie star, and the way he delivered his roles proves that he was born to be a movie star. I would say I would also want to give recognition to the guy who played Ronti. They said he's an alumnus of Kunle Afolayan's film school. Wonderful job he did. Ruby, who played Obi, wonderful job. Fawaz, every single one of them, I loved their performances. Not to Sam Dedi as well. Bimbo Manuel has shown us that he has, I don't know, the range that stretches across the universe. His performance as the king, it was I don't know, will I say impressive? It was nothing short of impressive. I was also excited to see Bolaji Amusan on screen, Mr. Latin. I haven't seen this man in anything in forever, and when I saw this guy on screen, I was like, oh yes, finally, thank God. Where the hell did he go to all this while? And the fact that they were able to bring him for this film, I was really excited about it. um Funky Malam as well. Funky Malam that played Kafan Chan. I loved him. He was well utilized in this. In every single film I've seen him in, he always delivers, and he didn't fail to deliver in this as well. I loved the music and how they had fun with the talking drums. My favorite moment with the music in this film was when they sort of introduced us to Chief Fowohan, and the way they were playing the talking drums and the way the oh my god.
Okay, maybe that's the Lord telling you to relax. But thanks to me, 5 minutes is still have a 5 minute thing. There's not a lot of us here, so like your turn will come back again in 20 odd minutes if nobody else comes. But thanks. All right. Mash marshmallows, marshmallows.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a lot to say here, but I will say that overall, it was an interesting story. So I'll definitely give them that. um the premise was interesting. I could tell like the motivation of the characters were evident, from the kids to the thieves, and even like the original owners of the diamonds. And also that, I think it was an interesting story that he tried to tell, so kudos for that. um in terms of the actors I enjoyed watching, I thought Bimbo Manuel was great in his character, first as, as a king, but also as a father. I enjoyed watching his, scenes with Omoba, and then also, as a king, he stayed quite, he portrayed royalty in his scenes. Yemi Sholade, I mean, I really enjoyed him in these days of Super Story. So seeing him play this role, I can imagine that he had a lot of fun with it. Every time he came on, I thought, it was very interesting. He made me laugh sometimes, but I stayed glued to his character all the while. He really came, he brought that character to life, and I really appreciate his effort and his commitment to it. And I think for me, my standout person in that role was Tana Adelana. I didn't know that she could even speak Igbo. So when she first came on and she was talking with Obi in Igbo, I had to turn around like, who is speaking Igbo like that? It resonated very well with me. And then even in the scenes where she was, at him, well, trying to speak Yoruba, it was very convincing, because I was like, this is definitely an Igbo mom who is living in, Yoruba city, and she's speaking the Yoruba with the words that it's not very fluent, but she's able to communicate as well. So as Obi's mom, I thought she did a very good job, and for me, she was maybe the breakout performance of the entire movie. I really, really, really enjoyed her. And I would say kudos to Kunle Afolayan for casting her in that role. Sometimes in Kunle Afolayan's productions, there's some characters that really get to shine. They're not like the star, they might not be like the lead characters or something, but sometimes he gets it right in his casting. And I think that for this movie, Tana, she deserves all of the accolades for her performance. And yeah, that's the extent to my positives for this movie.
All
Thank you.
right. Thanks, Marshmallows. No, I agree with Tana praise. It
Yeah.
was I was like, oh my goodness, who is this lady? Whilst watching it, I had to look her up. But yes, apparently people who watch YouTube are more familiar. YouTube movies are more familiar with her. But yeah, thanks, Marshmallows. Okay, Road to Me. I think next. What did you like about Ijogbon?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so it's good that I made a list, because should be 5 minutes, right? Okay,
That's right.
so starting off, cinematography. The cinematographer for this was No Dash. She's the one that directed the Delivery Boy. I've heard Kunle speak before that he has a problem with collaborating people, that he always said if he'll do, he will fight, but this collaboration worked out. I really like the cinematography of this. The art design and the art design for this, all the houses from Bimbo Manuel's Kabiesi's room, the headmaster's house, the pastor's house, Yemi Sholade's his office, his car, the mines, the diamond mines, those mines looked very, very believable. The whole the location and settings for this was also very nice. I like the overall world building. I think that when like Kunle goes back to some of the strongest work that I've seen Kunle Afolayan do has been like mostly in these village settings. I think like you see at October 1 and Ikulako now with this, I think that his sense of understanding what the worlds where his stories are placed a little bit better. I think that they are stronger when he goes into the Yoruba village. I love that the fact that all the kids had very definable characteristics, and for their characters, Jami is a Muslim, he wants to jackpot, he's the alpha of the group, Ramsey is the son of the pastor. He is supposed to go to seminary. He doesn't want to go. Obi is like the female, like the one girl that hangs around with the boys. She too, how much she has a single mom. She has lost her dad. Then Omaba, the young kid that hangs out with them, kind of like your naughty kid brother, but like, you understand, likes older girls. That was nice. I liked Yemi Sholade's makeup. His the costuming, so actually like makeup, both for him and Gabriel. The marks, they gave them like some fake shaman, some change of characters. That so what I'm trying to say, Yemi Solade, the tiro around his eyes, his costume, his car. I like that. Like, okay, these are like definable things that make this character stand out. Funny thing, one of the weirdest things I like also in this movie was the product placements. It was kind of like how it was like. There are sometimes when I was seeing movies where the product placement was too product placement. Like I think like for when they bought the phones and when the kids had the drinks, even though it was like, oh, this is product placement, but I was like, okay, the kids have money, they bought it, this particular malt. It's cool, that looks nice. I like the script, the writing, and the structure of this the story. It was a very, I can clearly define my first act, my second act, my third act. In terms of structure and in terms of the logical progression of how the story happened, I'm like, okay, I like that. Two particular things I like was also like it has to do with drama within the story, which is like conflict, and there's also a part of complication. So I like the fact that Jamil, both him and Ranti have this kind of like there's this young versus old, the rebellious young people versus the old traditional people, where like Jamil is like, why does his dad, the headmaster, still want to stay in the village? Like, look at his best teacher is living there. Nobody wants to stay in this village and remain poor. And he was like, look, I want to jackpot, I want to go to Canada. And his father is like looking at him like, no, this is not why those things are happening. Then you have Ranti and his dad, and his dad is like, you're going to go to seminary. He says, no, Dad, I'm not going. I like that whole conflict. Also with the jackpot syndrome, which is more applicable to the general Nigerian situation where young people just can't see any hope and they're like, they want to leave. I like how that was fixed into the story. The part I like was also complication. The complication I like was like, okay, this adds to the story. Not really adds to the story, but I like how the complication came about. The moment they kidnap Omoba, then they tell them to bring the diamonds, and they're like, okay, once again, get the diamonds. Where we hit the diamonds was stolen. Gabriel has stolen the diamonds, so they have to get the diamonds back from Gabriel, which they now have to get to Yomi Sholade's character. Now they have to find out where Gabriel is in order to get the diamonds back, in order to rescue their friend. I'm like, okay, that complication works. What else again did I like? I like Femi's branch character. Overall the villains, the guys that were like had the Amadunis group. I like the fact that how they kind of came up with this scheme to tell the Oba that, look, we want to buy land, which was kind of their cover story for them to search the land looking for their diamond, which was like cool. That makes, it's a nice cover story. Oh, we want to come and invest in your land. So it doesn't look like, why are these strangers going through our land? That was a nice way to cover it up. Then the idea that if we want to find who took these diamonds, let's just watch out for somebody that is spending, this is a village, anybody that has something that is a little bit too flashy, we know that person most likely has diamonds. So yes, I was like, okay, that's cool. That's the cover story, the idea of figuring out how, like, you understand, they would find the person. That's cool. Femi Branch, I also liked his character, how ruthless. When there was this standoff between Jamil them, is my time up? Okay, when Jamil them, Jamil them and were like, oh, give us our friend. No, give us our friend. And it was like they were holding Funky Malam on stage. And Femi Branch was like, okay, fuck it, kills Funky Malam. And I'm like, okay, hey, you're a ruthless bad guy. You don't have time for this nonsense that these kids are playing around with you. I like that. I like the editing at the end with the split screens when we were having the interrogation scene. That was very nice. There's a little bit of like something I've been asking a little bit more like Nollywood movies, just add a little bit of style. There's so many styles, film stuff that we can add that can make it more visually just interesting and more engaging. I love the fact that they really inculcated the split screens and they were not going from each of the children plus the Chinese guy being interviewed. That split screen was actually very nice. For this thing, what else again?
Nothing else again now. I said you have time. I thought you're rounding up. We'll come back to you. We'll come back.
Okay.
Come back to you again if you have more stuff to add.
I'm almost but yeah, you can come back to me. No problem.
All right. Elizabeth, please tell us some of the things you liked. Elizabeth, are you there?
Okay, I couldn't hear you. All right, so a lot of the things I'd like to say, other speakers have said them. I've said them rather. So I'll just limit mine to first the world building. I really liked the way Kunle started this movie. I thought it went straight to the point, and I really like that. And I've missed seeing a fun starts, at least the first two scenes, three scenes. Let me be invested, introducing the characters, and I like the use of music, the camaraderie. So a bunch of yeah, the first two, three scenes got me excited, and I like seeing films start in that manner, just quickly, fun, and straight to the point. World building. I like the village. As a small town girl myself, who I think everybody I went to secondary school with, almost everybody have left the small town now. That subtext of the film actually speaks to me, and personally, I like that this film used a lot of subtext, right? The juxtaposing the woman talking, giving them a story, and then that story, and then mirroring exactly what's happening with the kids, with the diamond that they found, and how some blessings are actually curses. I like the subtext. It's been a while that I've seen subtext in films. We've seen social commentary, right? Like Gangs of Lagos. But writers actually using subtexts, it's been a while. Our films have been somewhat shallow, and we like using exposition to just, even though this does a lot of preaching, but we'll talk about that later. We like using exposition to just talk our way through a plot. So it was nice to see that there were lots of subtext here, one tied to personalities, right? Ronte's problem with his parents, Jamil's own problem, the city in general, and even how greedy Yemi Sholade's character is. Do you understand? So I like all of that. Another thing that I liked was, yeah, I like that there wasn't a lot of dialogue for some things, even though I felt like some things could have been better done. We'll talk about that in bad, but I think Timmy made mention of, when Ron, and this is why I think Ronte's character was the better actor of the four kids. Ronte was way better than Jamie for me, because he wasn't doing a lot of speaking, right? He was doing a lot of acting with his body language and his face and his stance and his actions. Even when he speaks, right? You know that Ronte has something to say. I really like how he flows with everything, and I like that they didn't give him so much dialogue in much more, that his actions speak into his acting tells a lot about his action and even consequences of his actions. What else? I like the art direction. Oh my god, I really like the location used, the houses, everything looked lived in and alive. And God, I've forgotten how much, we're so used to spectacle now, right? In films, it's just this obscene display of wealth that we've gotten accustomed to, and so much flash and dash and razzmatazz. I really, really enjoyed seeing this sort of setting, something different, the red soil, the school uniforms that look familiar, the houses that looked lived in, and in such a way where the town, or shall I say the village, looked like a throwback in contrast to Ibadan, right? And that's the way a lot of small towns are. It's sort of like a throwback, really. Things that are popping in town are not yet popping there, but everybody's living their slow life, in contents with being the biggest baby in town, like BC, and you have like 10 years behind makeup on your face and you're like the biggest girl there. So it was nice. All those nice tiny depictions. I really liked it. And like Rotimi mentioned, I like that editing at the end. I found it funny because the movie had dragged at some point for me. And even though I like the intrigue at the end, but when they caught the kids and they were asking them questions and they were just lying through their teeth and then cutting, I really had fun there. I liked it. It was funny. It also made for an elevated experience of watching the film. I particularly like the resolution. I like that it ended there. I really like, because I feel like juxtaposing this entire plot with what the old woman was talking about in the beginning. Yeah, even though Yoruba films are tend to what's that thing called, tell moral lessons, but I really like that. I like that she threw it away. She wasn't even straight away. She would only said, Jamil, please give him a share of the diamond. And this, for no reason. Jamil, extremely unreasonable and irrational. He just wants to leave the town. He doesn't care at what cost. Again, that's another subtext of the Nigerian reality right now, because everybody's Japan and all that. And then she did what somebody else would think was nonsense. At least they should have been rich, right? They should have made money like the kids in Dope, Rick Famuyiwa's film. But she threw the diamond in the river, and then she walked away and let them deal with it. I like that the film ended there, because maybe, not all blessings are actually blessings, they're actually curses. So yeah, that's majority of. I like the use of music. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. Just going to read some comments before we go to Wayne's rant. Nollywood Must Change says, I like Yemi Sholade's performance. That was a good villain. The performances of the 14s were okay. The lead guy stood out. The cinematography was and sets design were okay. The film is not bad in comparison to what they have been serving us. I like it being rural, but not poverty porn. Then Muyi says, yes, I agree. Ranty's acting was so good. And then Adea says, I liked the cinematography, the shots, the split screen, the intro credit was nice at the beginning. The makeup was good. Seems like they listened when we commented on the makeup for Anikul Akbar with the tribal marks and the beards and the hair dye low. Lots of lessons. All right. Okay, so Wayne's rant, please could you tell us some of the things you liked?
Hi, Bonui. So the things I liked, I'll start where Elizabeth ended. I really loved the ending. So there's this thing for when you're learning how to write plot twists. I think there are these two writers, I can't really remember their name. I think they're brothers. They do this thing where they take a story and they begin to write it in the most unresolvable way that exists, and then they try to get a conclusion out of it. And they had found that I helped them to be able to write stories that people could not predict, right? And many times when I watch films, I'm always trying to see the end, how they resolve it, and I really loved the way they resolved this. Like Elizabeth said, I like the fact that the foreshadowing of that undermining message that they had been sending from the beginning of the story about the diamond or the treasure that is basically in that city, Oyoke, I think. That we had a payoff. So I really like that. And then, but mainly the end. I just, when they did that thing when they were like in the police thing and they got to the bridge, and I can't remember the name of the character she played. Obi, sorry. Yes. So when Obi threw away the stones, I remember just pausing my screen and I was so happy. It just really sunk in with the message that the whole film had put in. Another thing the film started.
I think
my housemate doesn't watch. Oh, can you hear me?
Go on.
No?
Yeah, I can hear you. We just lost you for a brief second.
Okay, yes. Oh, okay, sorry. So my housemate doesn't watch Nollywood. So when the film started, he was like, "Is that Kunle Afolayan?" Because he was saying it sounds like the score of the film sounds like Kunle Afolayan, and that just I really like that there was a score, like there was like that sound. That's why I like the score. I like the way it ended. I don't hate the acting of the younger ones. Yeah, I think for me generally the whole thing I take away from the film was I watched it, I enjoyed it, and I think the real test of a film is how you felt when you watched it, for the first time. And when I watched it, it was a fun watch. So yeah, I think that's basically most of the things I liked.
All right. Thanks, Wendrant. And Inka, do you want to tell us the thing you liked about Ijogbon?
Sure. Mm. Hello, everybody. Um,
So
I want
before you go on, is a
see.
5 minute
Yeah,
rule.
you cannot see me now. Taking my time.
Before you say I cut you off later on, there's a 5 minute timeout. Okay, go ahead.
Well, you now I have 6 minutes because you've taken 1 minute. Um, I watched this movie with like my American friend, and she enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie, and I don't think I at first I thought the acting of the kids was a little bit stiff, but towards the end they really got better and they portrayed the characters that they were supposed to portray. So I think the kids did well. I think it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed how languages were popping up out of nowhere, and I read the thing too. It was just beautiful, and it was nice to see a small town. It's not necessarily a village; it's a small town, and it's kind of finally good to see like a a small town movie where the people in the town actually live in the 21st century. They already know what phones they are. They know what a phone is. They know what a TV is. They know that there is like Facebook. They know those things. They may not be like updated on some of the latest things, but it treated them like they were human beings. They were a small town and they were human beings, not characteristic out of the darkness 19th century European tropes about Africa, that we Africans use for people from the village, which is ridiculousness. Um, I liked the I like the look. I like the art direction. I think it was nice. I like the story. The story was nice. It was pretty good, entertaining movie. It wasn't. There wasn't that much bad things I could really say about it. Technical wise, I can say some bad things about it. Well, yeah, we had. I'm not even sure to say. I don't think even the foreigner compared to like what we normally get about foreigner acting wasn't bad. Was not bad. It was okay. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. That's 5 minutes, okay? Or no, less than five.
Less than five. Less than five for Inka. Thank you. All right. Let me read Mrs. C.
Yeah.
Please time me. I'm about to read Mrs. Vanessa's one. This is for Vanessa, because it's lengthy. All right. First off, I just want to say Mr. C is awesome. He's the greatest. He's the best. Well, there's no need to put that there, Vanessa. All right. The good.
I have the feeling you're lying.
Well,
But it's
okay,
okay.
we can't prove that. I've got the letter in front of me. Letter message. All right. The good. Kunle Afolayan knows how to start a film. I really enjoyed meeting all the characters in the first act. Also, would it be a Kunle film without some fable or legend? I appreciate his commitment to keeping Yoruba storytelling traditions alive. This film was what it said it was going to be. It said it was going to be about four teenagers, and it was. The entirety of Ijogbon was led by the Jamiu, Obi, Omoba, and Ranti. Whatever shenanigans and ensue are to aid the telling of their story. I love that this film was set in a rural Oyo village, and you can see it in the smallest things. That chief, that chief, that chief drives an old Benz and uses it as a show of wealth. Is telling of the rest of of what the villagers are like. We also see it in the set design. Oh, and Vanessa will accuse me of typos. And homes felt very lived in, like Jamie, and the principal's home felt very much like an Akada's house. All right. The story was pretty simple and didn't need Serenre, so Kunle didn't give it Serenre. It felt so good to watch a Nigerian film that didn't have pomp and pageantry, no shine, no car chases around the roundabouts, no SWAT teams, etc. You know how last week we talked about the things that are wrong with Nollywood and how it isn't a lack of stories, but how the stories are told? This is how you tell a universal story without losing the Nigerian context. Take, for instance, that fight by the river. That's the way they fight for Niger. Whoever choreographed that beatdown did a good job. I agree. The Nigerian context was also evident in the children's relationship with their parents. My favorite was Obi's with her mom. That scene where they were pounding yam and her mother telling her off for always hanging out with Jamiu and Ranti is as Nigerian as it can get. Uh, Everyone in this film had motivation, and unlike Far From Home, jeez, shade from everything. Okay, unlike Far From Home, that made a film that made it. And unlike Far From Home, that made a film that made it seem like the contents and worries of young people are inconsequential. This film was hinged on the motivations of the teenagers. Jamie wanted to Japa, Ranti just didn't want to go to seminary school. Obi just wanted to be with her friends, wanted be with her friends, wanted them all to be happy and make her mother proud too. But maybe as silly as Omoba wanting an iPhone, it's all motivation, Sha. The acting performance in this were overall good. I enjoyed Kayode as Jamil, Ruby as Obi in this, love Tana Adelana. I personally think she's severely undervalued in Nollywood. I could tell that Gabriel Afolayan and Yemi Shade were having fun playing the characters they were. Can I see some Dede in more roles like this? Not all the time shooting gun. All right. Yeah, that was Vanessa's part. Mrs. C?
Okay. I do not have notes or bullet points. So if there's one thing Kunle Afolayan is going to do, he is going to set the scene. And I did appreciate that in this. I liked the look of the village. It seemed very authentic. I liked the houses, the school, everything just with the locations I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the opening as well, and I'm not counting the bit with Gregory as the opening when I say this. The sequence with the children while they're running through the town. That just seemed really fun and upbeat. I think I was vibing to the sound a lot. So I enjoyed that. I thought Chief was a vibe. I can't remember his name, the guy who played the Chief.
So, yeah.
The guy. I thought he was a vibe. I thought he was kind of a fun character to have. Bimbo Manuel is consistent. He's always good. And he was good in this. I think we've mentioned the actor that played Obi's mom. I thought she was pretty good as well. I liked that as somebody who speaks neither Yoruba nor Igbo, I liked that her Yoruba sounded stilted. Like her delivery of it anyway, it sounded like, someone who isn't. Yes, exactly. So I quite enjoyed that as well. I liked the premise. I do like a YA film. So I liked the premise of 4 kids, our friends, discover something and shenanigans ensue. I thought that was an interesting premise. What else did I like? I guess that's about it. I thought it was authentic. Music was a vibe. I liked the premise and I liked the acting of a couple of people.
Okay. All right. I don't know if Dika is on. Dika, can you tell us what you liked about the Ijogbon?
Hello, hi. So I think all the speakers have, taken said it all. But I just want to emphasize how I liked that this film felt very Nigerian. I mean, despite the influences, you could see how it felt very relatable, especially for someone like me who grew up in a small town, with how it feels very communal. I think the film captured it perfectly. I also liked that story took precedence over everything else. It was more about the story. I haven't felt like that with with like some of the films we've had like of recent. It's either the spectacle, it's what's the focus, or whatever message the film thinks it's passing, or whatever. But like with this, you could tell that the story was important, and you could see how everything tied in from the beginning with the subtext Elizabeth already mentioned, and even how the film came to a conclusion that made sense. We don't get that. We don't get that a lot. I liked the production design. I think I was even happier to see that Kunle also handled that, and with the red rugs, the curtains, it felt like a home. The homes felt like a home, and not like a set. I think that's what I wanted to say. I like the acting performances by the young actors, especially because I'm not familiar with them. And so the boy who plays Jamil, I thought he did great. I also like that yeah, we had like this four. Of course, the film was about the four teenagers, but it just found a way to also like make Jamil the center, and it felt, and I think it just helped structure out the story better with like having him. Yeah, we have like four leads, but him at the center just helped structure the story better. What else was I going to say? I liked the villain in this. I think Yemi. I can't recall his name now, but like the man who played the chief, I really, 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 really like his performance, and it wasn't. So there's something about like a performance that is showy. Sometimes it sort of like tilts towards caricature, but I think he handled this like really well, and there was like nuance in it. I was going to say I like the cars. Some of them, some felt a little too vintagey. But like I think that's the point for a different section of this piece. But like yeah, I really like this film. I think it's a good film, and then yeah, I also so like something else. I like that the story kept like story was simple, and it didn't try to overdo with the many things surrounding it. Yeah, it stuck to the core of it. Yeah, that's my point. Okay, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dika. All right. Things I liked. All right. Aside some of the things that I would say, if five people have said it, I probably agree with it. Um, some of the things that haven't been mentioned, I think maybe the mixture, the way Kunle, and this is not a new thing for Kunle, the way he mixes languages in his film, I think is worth commending. He knows how. I think there's a few languages in, whether it's just be. I know majority of it is Yoruba and English, but like the way they mix it, I think is nice. And you know what, having an Igbo person in there makes sense for why they generally speak English amongst themselves, the kids. People have talked about the establishing shots. Like I always think it's nice instead of just doing a drone shot. Not that there wasn't a drone shot in the opening because apparently we just have to do it. But the way Kunle establishes the village is just yes, it's nice. It's the other time I remember him doing this was, I think, Swallow. But in Swallow, like the place he establishes, we don't really do anything with that village. Really, most of the story is about Lagos. But in this one, the village actually feels like part of the story and part of the character. So I thought ADR was mixed well. There's a couple of ADRs that I thought they mixed it well. I think people have said Gabriel is fun. I thought that intro music as well was really nice, and it's nice in a way that I thought wasn't too typical. So yeah, those were the things that stood out for me and that I enjoyed. Oh, there was one drone shot that panned, which was part of the way the story was like it wasn't just like, hey, drone shots, look, doing a drone shot. It was part of the storytelling, and it did a little panning movement. I was like, oh, that was very nice. All right. So Pearl, do you want to tell us some of the things you liked?
I do. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi, loud and clear.
Okay, so real quick, I'm not going to do all 5 minutes because almost everything I want to say has been said. So I'll just mention the things that haven't already been said. So one of the first of which is among socially relevant topics that were touched upon, of which we've already stated that there were quite a number. We've mentioned the Japa epidemic and so on. Two other things, or rather one more thing actually that they talked about was the inadequacy of Nigerian agricultural processes. I know that meeting between like the king and the chiefs and the outsiders slash villains, bad guys, um it looked like it was just a setting for whatever we knew that these were intruders or whatever, but their conversation was so interesting to me because it was talking about really the one of the biggest problems we have in our agricultural sector, which is food, or agricultural, the storage, the processing leading to export or not of agricultural products, and how to prevent glut and wastage. So I could go on and on about that, but I liked that. Was actually interesting to me. I thought the transitions were great, but I don't know if that's been mentioned. Something I really enjoyed was how the movie captured the naivety of kids. So that led to like some of the funniest scenes for me. For instance, when the kids went to Chief Awoni Farah, if I got the pronunciation right, I just called him the motor parts dealer or something. Anyway, they didn't realize that they needed to have bank accounts, and that was funny to me, and just how they thought that they could go there and like arm twist a grown man, and things like that. I thought that that was funny. So up to an extent, they did capture that naivety of kids. And then I liked how they leaned into some stereotypes. So for instance, that verbose principal, the school principal stereotype where he was speaking all that big grammar. I wish there was more of that, but I liked how they did that. Something else I liked was how they used relatable objects in the story. So, for instance, when a scorpion beat Funky Malam, his character's hand, I thought that that was really, I liked it because it could have been anything else, but they used something that felt like organic. And then also when I saw Amotekun, I was so happy to see that because I know there's been like a lot of higi haga or whatever regarding Amotekun, but at least in the beginning, I know that community policing was at the root of the creation of Amotekun. I don't know what it is now. And then finally, I would say that I enjoyed the multiplicity of antagonists. I liked so there was Chidera and her minions or whatever, the people, and then there was of course Chief Awoni Fari, I don't know. Then there was Kasali, and his girlfriend, and then of course there was antagonism within the group itself. Not so much antagonism as jealousy or strife or whatever it is. So I enjoyed that. If it was not just the outsiders, it was at different levels. So those are the things I liked in this film.
All right, thanks, Pearl. Appreciate that. Does anyone have a part two of the things where I caught you off that you wanted to speak on? Oh no, hang on. Sorry.
I just
You
want to.
finished your 5 minutes for a
I
start.
did
Number
look here.
two, wait,
Everybody. I
wait.
was waiting to everybody talk.
Atas
Oh, you
hasn't
can go. It's all right.
No, Sas, go. I will go. So that somebody would not accuse me of taking everything and then try to mute me all the time. But it's okay.
Okay. Um. So I liked. I really enjoyed some of the performances in this. Um,
and there were quite a few people who were like names I loved seeing, but who still managed to blend in. I liked Sam Dede in this. He felt very natural in the role he was playing. And also Obi's, I think that's her name, Obi's mom, Obiageli's mom. I think that's one of my favorite performances from her, I think ever, really. I really liked the sets and all the houses that they shoot. They felt really like you can tell that they put a lot of effort into making the sets feel natural for the characters that they were supposed to be for and the community. Um, and I really enjoyed the story that was told, as well as even parts of how it was told. It was a really good story. The story of some people, a group of people or teenagers, whatever, finding random wealth is not new, but I really liked the setting that this was put in, and kind of the way the story unfolded, mostly. But that is mostly it for me.
Okay. All right. Here's the second chance for people who want to add. If not, we will read some comments and go to the bad.
If you know there's one person that wanted to say something, just say my name. I just wanted to mention what my friend really liked about the movie. She liked the fact that the kids were not necessarily, what's it called? The kids were not necessarily they weren't like ultimately like very smart. They acted like kids, and like the decisions were made like kids. And she also was shipping Jimmy with Obi, so she liked all that stuff. She told me to mention that, so I have to mention it. I don't know. I could have just told her I mentioned it. She's not here. I could have lied. Bye bye.
All right. Okay. All right. That's Timmy's has an end up. All right, Timmy.
In addition to what Pearl said regarding the naivety of the kids, I found it very funny when they wanted to rescue Omoba and they were like, "Oh, my friend first," and Femi Branch was like, "If you don't give us the diamonds, your friend is going to die." And they really thought that Femi Branch and Adunia Ade cared about Kafan Chan. I was like, really? Is that really what you guys are going to do right now? And so yeah, when Femi Branch killed Kafan Chan, I was like, yes, exactly. Because what were the kids expecting would happen? What do you guys think would happen? Um, Another thing that I liked was at the beginning of the film, Jamu's plans to Japa was to Japa to Benin Republic, since that was more it was much more achievable for him. But upon coming across the diamonds, he had bigger dreams and he changed his plans to Canada. The other thing that I liked was I loved the relationship between the parents and the kids. I was watching this film with someone and they were talking about how if this um, in real life, if these things happened, that these children would have been beaten by their parents. And I thought about it and I was like, I like the fact that the parents didn't do that. We didn't, there wasn't any need for, like, you could see that the parents legit cared and loved the kids. And even though the kids obviously made very stupid decisions, the parents didn't resort to like violence and physical abuse just to like, will I say warn or like correct the kids, that type of thing. The slap that Obi gave Latifa, I love that scene, and I like the fact that the will I say animosity between the both of them was kind of set up earlier when Obi was washing the clothes and Latifa was running her mouth, blah 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 blah. And I think finally, I would say like I liked how the film was able to pass its messages across without needlessly being preachy and feeling insulting. And yeah, that's it.
All right.
It's too early for me to start pushing back.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. Let's pivot into the things we don't like.
Oh.
All right. No, it's not you.
I know. I just wanted to second what Otas said about Sam Dede. I forgot to mention him in my good. It was really refreshing to see him give that performance after
Okay.
Black Book.
All right.
Sorry, can I?
It's Timmy starting, actually. Timmy, you're still the one to start us off with the things you didn't like.
Honestly, the things that I didn't like about this film, it's not like I didn't like. Wait, what am I even saying? I honestly don't think I have any buts to say. Maybe if someone says something and something crosses my mind, then sure I can come back later. But I honestly don't have anything to say.
Okay. We'll see in pushback section. Otherwise, I'm sure. All right, marshmallows.
Okay, so what did I not like? Number one is the characterization. So when my positives had mentioned that it was a very interesting story that they tried to tell. In the characterization, I thought it fell a bit short for me in some areas. So I think a very classic example is when everybody singles out just one of the kids' characters and saying that was like their breakthrough performance. I thought that I was disappointed watching it and thinking, wow, like even with what seems to be like a big budget Nollywood movie, we still haven't gotten it right with portrayal of children or younger adults in movies. So I thought they could have done better with that. They did what they could, but I just kept thinking this cannot be the best that we have to offer. So that fell short a bit for me. Another one was, I think, the Kafan Chan character. Now, I really enjoy Funky Malam in TV and movies, but this one I just was not convinced at all, and I wondered why they chose him to play that part and couldn't. I don't know. I feel like anybody else could have done a better role, better job of bringing that character to life. So I don't know. So when he died, I was like, good, like he can go. Then also in terms of characterization, another part that really fell flat for me was the Chinese character. And it just seemed like, they just went and found the first guy who could look convincing enough to be a Chinese man. And they're like, okay, yeah, well, we have you. So you just say this. I don't know, but, whatever. Those are some of the things that made the movie difficult for me to watch. So definitely, yeah, they had a very good story to tell, and I thought it was simple enough because you understood where everybody was coming from, but just the portrayal fell short. Then the subtext. I know someone was talking about the subtext part of it, and for me, it's interesting to see that maybe somebody else got it. I thought that they could have leaned a bit more into it with the lady by the fire who was telling the story to the kids. Initially when I saw that part in the beginning, I thought, oh, this is good, but like it never really went anywhere. And I thought I was going to see a, characterization of that in the story, but some of it came to life, a lot of it didn't. And I think in the end, my final what I didn't like was really by the third act, I was ready for the movie to end. And I was so relieved when it did, because while they started out well, I don't think they ended well. And so even the third act that was supposed to be very gripping and, you just want to see how the entire thing ends, I just wanted it to end, really. And I thought if they had leaned a bit into the folklore aspect and also maybe the characterization, like maybe it would have just been a very strong story. And I kept comparing it to Anikulapo. I know we shouldn't, but I just kept thinking about how even Anikulapo till the end, it was a strong story all through, but the final act for me, I honestly I was relieved when the entire thing ended. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I think it was a good story that he tried to tell. It was enjoyable, but it just fell short in some areas for me. So thanks.
All right,
Thank you,
Marshmallows.
Marshmallow.
No, I get you on some of those. I think next we have Rotimi. Rotimi, are you there? If Rotimi is not there, Elizabeth, can you tell us some of the things?
Yeah. Okay, so I share a lot of Marshmallow's sentiments. First, I would like to say that I'm actually grateful that I'm not going to go into this bad discussing lack of motivation or internal conflict or the three-act structure, because God knows that I've really come to detest Film Club for that reason. Like, you're just going on saying the same thing that you said the last time. Okay, so um it did become slow at the end of the second act towards the third act. I was actually tired myself at some point because I think I was tweets watching and I'm like, is this becoming long? I had to check again. It's just 90 minutes. Why do I feel like it's long? And I think the pacing is, I would have actually said, congrats. The thing with Kunle is not, he has not exactly gotten the beats that this is pacing, right? Like Anikulapo that you mentioned, he rushed. The ending was like quick. Rain is falling. Let's close shop. That was the way it felt. And this one felt like it got to the like mid second act to the third act and decided to just drag its feet heavily for that matter. So let us get into what could have made this film a better watch. The camaraderie between the kids, for me, wasn't earned. It wasn't earned. Don't get me wrong, it was good. I like, they ran through the town. Like I mentioned, that opening sequence of them running, just seeing them laugh together. I love it. But then I think our writers need to do, is a better job at having some form of emotional core between the four friends. What is it that they could have done better? You know, in their talking, even talking about life, bonding about parents, they just sat there at that rock and like, oh, I need to get out of this star. Oh, I will go to seminary. Oh, I will stay back. It felt like you're dropping their motivations on time in time for you to go into the story. I didn't like that. I thought that you could have shown us. And it felt like while watching it, the characters, they were showing the characters' motivation, their struggle within their home in a silo, in a way that it's not interconnected to the friendship with the friends. So the only one of the, I won't use the word only because we've bagged a bunch of YA, Casala is one, but um for I would use Rick Famio as dope as maybe something a bit similar. Even though those kids were talking about the love for the main characters, 90s, they're obsessed with 90s. Look at the things they bonded over 90s rap, right? Even the aesthetics they're in a band. These kids just run around town for absolutely no reason. I don't know. You just like running around. I didn't think that was a good job at characterization for the friends. The kids didn't connect on any other level other than running. I would have appreciated some more context in there to make it more enjoyable and all the feels for me. And I felt like a lot of the characters were one dimensional. Maybe not exactly our main characters, even the main characters, because I'm thinking about Prince or Moba right now. The kid was just a kid. Makes sense. Let me make sure that I appreciate that they explained how he became friends with that friend group because I was waiting for it to drop. I'm like, why is this tiny rat their friends, right? And they just made him into this kid who likes the flashy things, understandable for his age. But that seemed to be, yeah, he was smart enough to figure some things out at home. I just felt like, again, this feeling where some of the characters are in silos, right? So if it came up like one, Yemi Sholade to who else? Gabriel, the BC character. Everybody just felt like, they've been given a script, come into the set and get out of it. That's how I felt like it to me. So I think that was a disconnect for me while watching it. And it's appalling that Kunle has not conquered sound. He had this echoing problem in Anikulapo. He's having it again toward it was taking me out, it was jarring. I'm like, good God, Kunle fix this. I know that a lot of Yoruba style movie is the preachiness. I think it was me that said this thing didn't come off as preachy. I don't think so. So this is for writers. A lot of writing is observing social interactions, right? This film already has subtext. So rather, instead of leaning into the subtext in such a way, Marshmallow did mention that she didn't feel like it was strong. And I off this film club, somebody else had told me that I didn't get the subtext. But I feel like they could have done a better job to establish it rather than using words. So a lot of, I don't mind exposition. I just think everything should be fit for purpose, just like how the kids went on to explain their motivation from that very first scene at the Rock. I didn't think it was necessary. If you had replaced that scene with them just being kids bonding over something, maybe something they watched in somebody's house where they go rent film or something they saw on somebody's phone, laugh about TikTok and stuff. Maybe they saw it on somebody's phone. That could have been something, right? You could have tied this friendship to something that they had in common. But rather, we've already used exposition to expose the motivation, which you didn't have to do because eventually you still showed us. And then this film had a lot of I think it was the end. You parents, oh my God. At this point, I was like, why? If you're going to use soft text, please drop the preachy. Again, it feels like you don't trust your audience to be smart enough to take the messages that you have put in. If they don't get it, that's also fine, right? Maybe after they have watched like 2-3 other films, they will start getting it. But it felt like spoon feeding and then it took me out. So please leave the preaching if you're going to use exposition, and the exposition, preaching through exposition, just leave it out. Tighten the context better. Okay, let me bounce now. Give the room to somebody else.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Next it was Rain's Rants. Oh, sorry, hang on. Before Rain's Rants comes on, read to me if you're there now.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we're in the bad section, right? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let me just go through my bad. I'll add whatever I wanted to add to my summary. Okay. So at the beginning of this the movie with Greg, for me, the catch is there's just one thing I think I'm just nitpicking. This is me nitpicking, so I don't know. There's no wrong or right about it. It's just that it's just my observation. I'm like, why did Greg stop his car to get out and start running in the bush? I'm just like, it just looks as though he stopped. It was not like he had a roadblock in front of him. He lost it. I feel like, okay, maybe he saw a roadblock, he had to stop, or he ran out of fuel, or his tire got busted. He just literally, they're chasing me and I stop and I start running into the bush and I'm like, okay, why did you stop? Particularly, why did you just stop here on the road? There's nothing in front of you. They're chasing you. I now stop your car to run in the bush. I just felt that was kind of odd. Also, how Greg got killed, like in the beginning, because it's like literally you are chasing this guy for the diamonds. You don't know where the diamonds are, and which they kind of alluded to later when Funky Malam was like, oh, you killed the person that knows about where the diamonds are. And it's like, oh, it was a mistake. And I'm like, the mistake was not earned. I'm just like, literally when Jamil, same thing, when Funky Malam was chasing Jamil, he fell into a ditch. And that's when they discovered Greg's body. And I'm like, if Greg ran, because he's kind of a big guy, just so that he ran and in the process of getting scared or running away from Funky Malam, he falls into the ditch, breaks his neck, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense why he should die in that kind of situation. I'm like, okay, that's just for me what I'm thinking about that particular scene. I think someone was just mentioning it earlier. I just think a little bit like the characterizations were just a little paper thin, because everybody just stating their motivation, just a little too paper thin. Like everything was just a little bit too paper thin, just in terms of their characterization. Oh, I want to jackpot. Oh, I don't want to go to seminary. Oh, me, I want to buy a phone. And it just felt like, okay, that's all about the character. Just a little paper thin. Was okay, still worked. I felt just a little paper thin. The way they discovered the diamonds was a little bit too convenient. Just, oh, look at this tire tracks. It's not as like they are walking along their way and they notice something. They're just like, they're standing next, and they're like, oh, let's follow these car tracks. Why? What we think, like car, okay, maybe it's a little bit odd if cars pass that way, but I'm like, why are you not following the tire tracks? What's the big deal about this tire tracks that you have to follow them. The so-called love triangle, or this that's supposed to happen between Ranti, Jamio, and Obi. I just like, it's like same thing I said with characterization. It was just said, "Oh no, I like you," and I'm like, this thing, just at least one scene, even if it's like maybe Jamio buying Obi maybe a gift, a small necklace, a small wristband, holding her hand, peck on the cheek, just one thing. Then you have Ranti looking at him with jealous eyes from one side. I just felt like I didn't see where. I just felt they were just friends. I didn't see anything that there was any relationship, and where like Ranti also just said, "Okay, I like you." Maybe it works, but it's not really like, "Oh girl, I really we're having a discussion." I'm like, I like you. No, it's just like, "Oh, we're having a discussion. I like you. This other guy likes you," and I'm like, okay, just a little bit paper thing. There's also had this some places where people are staring at camera, where people in the background. And there's also like a problem in Nigerian films, especially if you're shooting live locations. This is not something that I don't know if you can control or not control, but just in a few instances, I got some people just like people in the background staring at the camera. Jamil, when he was praying, and this is like, you understand, just a small detail. That's the way he was praying for me was inaccurate. It's actually inaccurate because he's like, so there were three people in the mosque when he was praying. Normally now, if like if the two people behind the person in front, like there's one person leading them, the two people at the back will stand side by side each other. And if the third person is not praying, maybe he's praying on his own, Jami will stand next to the person leading the prayer. They would not stand separately. So that's like for Muslim prayer, that's inaccurate. Totally. You understand? This thing. The highlight points, there are just certain highlight points that are happening within this story that I just felt like they were under dramatized, if I can use that word. Let me see two examples. When Omaba got shot, it's like that is one of your characters, that's one of your main characters. Even like, I'm just like, even if it's just slow motion, even if it's like heighten the expression of the kids' faces, is like you shoot him like you are shooting any other character, and I'm like, this is one of the kids, like that's supposed to be like one of the highlights that, oh shit, why did Omaba got shot? Is he dead? Is he not dead? I just felt like those kind of things could have just been heightened. It just plays like any other scene, not like as though this scene is special. They're shooting this youngest kid, there gets shot. That's a big deal. Then also when Ranti discovers that Gabriel was probably the main suspect in the person for who stole the diamonds. It's almost like, what was the detail he noticed that made him look like, okay, let me suspect this guy, because this guy is walking with a raffia bag. And it's like, hey, guy, stop. And I'm like, if you put a close up on either the phone, I think it's the phone that he noticed, and I'm like, wait, where did this guy get his phone? It's almost like a close up, even a close up on his own expression. So it's almost like he just plays in a wide, and you don't see why he's suspecting this guy, which was kind of, I like the idea that Gabriel being the one to come back and steal. After this guy, he linked up back to when the chief told him that I have a job for you. But I'm just like, how just maybe that place could have been heightened where he noticed what Gabriel had taken. I just think that also,
yeah.
Am I done?
Burton,
yeah.
5 minutes up. Yeah, let's come back to if you have more to add. Wayne's rant. It is you if you are there.
Yeah, I'm here. Rotimi said a lot of the things I was going to say. Since I have 5 minutes, I'll try to do. Why I omitted myself, by the way, was I wanted to say good then. So, and I wanted to add that I really like the diversity of the group. Anyways, my bad. The first thing I didn't like is the fact that they didn't really build the relationship between the teenagers well enough so that the love triangle that eventually ensued, I paused it and I just cringed so hard. Because it felt very forced, like, oh, so there are three people around the same age group. There is a guy. They said there are two guys. There's a girl. So there's that thing where they liked each other. It's not like I didn't see it coming because I saw it coming because I expected them to do it, but I didn't see it coming in any of the things that occurred in the film. They never give off that vibe. So and I think the reason why that happened was, we're always talking about how or at least we're talking about the fact that they prioritize story in this film. I think maybe they prioritized it a little too much so that they didn't really delve into the relationship these guys had. They just, but let's just tell these guys the story.
Another thing is, I think Rotimi just said it also, how Greg lost the stuff. It was just so weird. Like somebody's pursuing you. First of all, the car chase was really getting me upset because I could see the car would be like, let's say, 20 seconds behind him. Then the car would not be like 5 seconds behind him. Then the car would be like 20 seconds behind him again. It's like, what is going on? Is the car like jumping in time? And then he was running away from someone. He just parked his car, started running into random bushes. Like later, it just became night, and then he was like, "Okay, let me hide this thing here." Why? Um, he's like, I don't see an end game. He just ran like forever into the bush. Was he going to die there? Like it just didn't make sense how he lost it. And then how they found it was just so weird. He saw random this thing like, okay, let's follow it. That probably wouldn't have happened. And then snakes. It just felt too convenient. Like when I was watching that scene, I knew that was the scene that they found the diamonds. It just felt like they were trying to make these guys find the diamond. Also the killing scenes. I think all of the killing scenes pissed me off. Every single scene that someone died. I didn't like the blood. Um, the way the blood looked. I didn't like the way the people were killed. Maybe the way Chief killed that his girlfriend. Maybe that's one I could manage. Um, I think two other people said this that around second act to third act, it may have dragged out a bit. And I just went to check the run times. About a minute is about an hour 55 minutes. I don't really know why it felt dragged out, but I also experienced this thing where at some point in the film I was like, let them just finish. Is my time up?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. I heard someone on mute. And then the main villains, those guys, I don't know. I don't think that's what you do to get $10 million worth of diamond back. I honestly don't think that's what you do. You don't send one Chinese guy, one guy, and one buff Malam. It just feels like if you wanted to get your stuff back, you would send a lot. Like there'll be a lot more artillery into it. Like the way they found this thing was pure luck. I mean, it's like it just happened that um he found the okay. And okay, let me just this is my last point. Also, the way everything just happened in the film, things were just like so convenient. This guy just remembered. He was just there when he was just one that put it together that BC is dating Chief and dating Kasali or whatever his name is. He just put it together. Oh, he must be here. Oh, he must have gone. Everything just felt so convenient. The way the villain found out that the kids were the one that taking the diamond was too convenient. And like I said, the villains, I feel like they didn't put in enough efforts. They should have done. It's $10 million. Like in any currency, anywhere, that's a lot of money. Nobody is just going to be like, oh, let me just kind of find it and so yeah. I think that was just majorly the things that I didn't like. If I remember anything, maybe if there's a second time I'll say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Otas, do you have a word for us?
I do. I didn't even realize my mic was on. Thankfully, nothing weird was going on in the background. Okay. So my bad. First and foremost is Adini Ade. Oh my god. She keeps popping up everywhere. And I mean, shout out to her and her manager for staying booked and busy. But she manages to be one note in all her cameos, and somehow in this movie she managed to act badly over the phone. Like that phone conversation with her when she's talking to the guys after they can't find her diamonds was possibly, I don't know what that was. And the whole story, even for the diamonds, like even why they have the diamonds in the first place, why the diamonds are there, it was so porous. I don't think she believed the story she was selling, which explains a lot. um there's a lot of convenience in this movie. The person who went before me just mentioned that in his last point, so I won't be flug that. And then in the worst moments, this movie loses its urgency. So yeah, in the third section, when they're all looking for their children, it's clearly frantic. They've pieced it together. All four children are not where they're supposed to be. No one has seen their children. They're in the forest, they're in the hills. They come across four dead bodies. And then they stand there to chat and commiserate and pray. And even chide each other, like, oh, why are you praying for them? Like, your four children are missing. And they're just chilling. And then while that is happening, they hear a gunshot. Let's rush and go find our children. Not yet. They stay there, chat for a bit more, then go towards the gunshot where they see three more dead people and stand there to continue chatting and praying. Like, are we serious? Like, at this point, you're still looking for your four children. You've heard at least one gunshot, even though they should have heard more because three people were shot. And they're just like, no urgency. To be fair to them, I feel like their children were just annoying at that point, and maybe the parents were just tired and just kind of leaving things up to. I don't know what's happening, but that took me out of the urgency of the situation a lot because it just didn't feel like we were serious. I didn't think the kids were great. I can't think of a single one of them that was a great actor, unfortunately. Amon Noba was the worst of the lot. He also felt very, I don't know, just very one note. The Chinese actor is arguably the worst non-Nigerian actor in a Nigerian movie ever. In some parts, he can't speak any English and can only talk in like short phrases because he's not fluent in English, apparently, like that guy says. But somehow in the end, when it's time to create that elaborate plan, and at the police station, when he's telling them the plan, he's suddenly Hemingway. I didn't understand why it seemed unrealistic that the king's son might have a used iPhone. I just didn't understand why that was the glaring flag for him. Like, it's the king's son. It just made sense to me. Like, obviously, the king's son would be slightly flashier dressed than everybody else. So I didn't see why that was a smoking gun for him to be like, these children have my diamonds and I'm going to kidnap him. I don't know what this character was. And then the crush and the love triangle was so random. And so was the children's relationships. But that's all for me.
All right. Yeah. No, I'm with you with a lot of that. I didn't write the leads were kind of poor at acting because I just thought, people would say that. But yeah, it's good. I think Tess said it because I actually might have forgotten it because it's not on my list.
I was gonna
all right. Okay. Oh, sorry. I missed Pearl. Pearl, it should have been you. Apologies. Please, the things you do not like about Ijogbon. Pearl, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I migrated away from my mic. Yes,
That's all right.
things I didn't like. So, wow. Whew. A lot of the things I didn't like have been said. But let's see. I think I have some things that were mostly like just confusing. The first is I don't know how Chidera, that's Adunia Ade's character, how it became her diamonds to the extent that she was so invested in getting them back. Because the first time, I think when she called, she said on the phone, she said, the reason why I agreed to take diamonds from you as kickback was what she said. So at what point did it become her diamonds? Like, if this is payment for you for something, first of all, I don't know what contracts people would pay you $10 million worth of diamonds as kickback, but okay, fine. I don't deal in those kinds of figures, so maybe it's above my pay grade. But if this was supposed to be payments, right? That's kickback. Then why is she the one now out here in the wild chasing after these diamonds? Is it not just to say, well, you don't get the go get me my payment and you get whatever it is the kickback is for? So I don't know. That confused me. Um, I'm not sure where these tire marks came from, because whatever his name is, Gregory Ojefua's character left the car on the road. And so I don't know what car this was. And then in that scene, when the kids saw it, they said, let's follow the trail. Why did they think it was a trail? So that already told me it was almost like, I don't know. I didn't like that dialogue. Um, I didn't like how Mr. Ming, the Chinese guy, became the good guy slash the savior. I was kind of confused about that whole ending, right? Like, it started out with him bringing a picture of a tortured kid, and to try, he was the one, he was in that mix. So you see now, is it like he was a double agent? I didn't understand that whole thing. And I get that they were trying to subvert like the stereotype of the shady Chinese businessman. But in the end, I'm like, did they really? Because the girl, Obi, she said in that last scene, or towards the end, she said he just used us. He's just using this. He's not a good guy. He's just using this to get a diamond mining contract. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means in this story, And as far as diamond mining, I don't have enough research on this, but is that like really a thing in that part? It just felt to me in that way, like I was watching one of these South African stories that are always talking about diamond mines. Is that really a thing in Southwest Nigeria? I don't know. And then, okay, this one is going to be in kickback, so let me just leave that. Now, I agreed with the part about I didn't really care about these children and all the stuff they were up to, because I didn't engage with their motivation. First of all, only one person, Jamiu, was talking about Japaing. The rest of them were just kind of like, yeah, okay, but he was the only one that was like, so the rest of them, what exactly was their motivation? I feel like there was not enough like tying in the correlation between their home lives and whatever other life stresses they had to this diamond find and their need to keep it and also to keep it secret. I didn't I didn't get a sense, they didn't tie that together. So to me, their motivation was kind of flaky. Only Jamiu's motivation was clear to me. For the rest of them, I don't know why they were going along with it. It just felt to me like they were just going along with it. And then I think this love story that was supposed to be between Obi and Jamiu, that was completely forgotten. That's been talked about. And then for me, I think a final thing was that it was the fact that this story, at least the beginning portion, the premise rested on the children recognizing these diamonds as diamonds. Guys, I don't know about you people, but I cannot see diamonds and say, oh, these are diamonds. I've been to museums of precious stones, and you would just see diamonds and you'd be like, ooh, these are diamonds. Then they take you to sapphires and you're like, hold on. They take you to emerald, like, hold on. Like, and then these are raw, uncut diamonds. They are bottles, as far as kids of that age know, and kids living in rural Southwest Nigeria or rural anywhere. In fact, modern cosmopolitan anywhere. Like, normal people, lay people are not trained to just see diamonds and speak emphatically, these are diamonds. These kids just knew diamonds. I was like, yo, I mean, all of these kids, okay? So Jamiu knows these diamonds, and then Omaba, who's even younger, comes and says, hey, do you think I'm a kid? These are diamonds. I'm like, oh, these kids are elite. So that stressed me out. But then the film took that seriously enough to use it as like the first maybe 20 minutes or whatever of that whole thing was, it rested on the fact that these kids actually believed, and we the audience were supposed to believe with them, that these are real diamonds. And so once the film decided that this is the story we are telling, they took that seriously enough for us to take us to that scene with Chief Awoni Fari. And so, to me, what that scene was supposed to have been, where the kids went to sell diamonds, it was supposed to have been a fact-finding mission, which was, are these diamonds, are these not diamonds? Are they not? Okay, you know what? We don't know. We have no way of knowing. Let's go. We know somebody who will know. And so when they go there, they are not particularly, I mean, they could say they want to sell the stones just as a way of figuring out if they are real or not, but that's not their main mission. Their main mission is first to ascertain that these are even diamonds, you know. And if they are actually diamonds, if these kids know enough about diamonds to recognize them on sight, then they should know that they only needed to be selling one at that point. Okay, so fine, they go with the authority of diamond knowers and go to sell these diamonds. And then again, the film takes this seriously enough that he doesn't laugh them out of the room, you know, like anybody else would do in a scene like this. And that whole scene was just ridiculous to me, with this grown man bargaining about diamonds with babies, you know. So I don't know, you know, that part really bothered me. Was there anything else? And for this last one, I don't know if maybe I didn't understand that part, but what was that whole land digging and excavation in the beginning about? You know, because, and then later the king saying that the foreigners should not go beyond that point. I wasn't sure what that was, that backdrop of like diamond mining. I don't know. That whole thing confused me. At first, when I saw that, you know, whenever you see a story like that, it's usually a story of like borderline slave labor, you know, and I thought that it was going to tie into whatever was happening with the main world and the world of our characters and whatever. But that was just people digging, and I don't know how it tied in. Okay, I'm done. I hear you coming in.
All right, thanks, Bill. All right, just before we get to Inka, some comments to read out. Ainda says, I agree the Chinese guy was so hard to watch, particularly loved the scene with Obi and her mom where she was warning about jumping with boys, sort of relatable. Ainda also says, I fully agree with Marshmallow. The final act could have been much better. Jessica says the character set up at the beginning felt rushed and wasn't as impactful as it could have been. We didn't see enough connection between them for me to care enough or understand their individual motivations. Hella Base says the third act made me wonder if the movie was secretly funded by the Chinese government via techno. Obvious rants in the final scene was extremely preachy and characterization was generally poor, saying, well, if Chinese funded it, they didn't. Well, yeah, I know they did some saving, but they weren't really the good guys at the end. Temita says everything was convenient. My theory, they happened on an I don't know what this word is. I'm going to say Ijogbon. Some deep historical story on resource control and worked a contemporary interpretation of it. The moment they said they saw truck trails, I was like, it was a small car now. The plot fell apart from there. They found the diamonds, the prince's expensive phone and being found. The way Gabriel found the bag in the hut. The way they found the children. Yeah, if Kunle was trying to make a point that resources came to us by luck, therefore everything in this one was by luck, points taken. All right. Adea says, didn't like the acting of the teenagers much. Obi's was stronger. Rotimi echoed my post, and then the end was not emotional enough for me. They were narrating a cover-up story, but I don't feel it was executed properly. Their friend has just been shot, so I expected more emotion. And Olinda says, thank you. Oh my God, the scene when Nigerian parents come across 4 dead bodies while looking for their kids was a little too mellow for me. I expected more Nigerian level dramatics. It was just too far from anything realistic. Okay, thank you for all your comments. Mrs. Oh, Ayinka, do you want to say your bad?
Okay. I think the bad for me was like maybe a little. I felt a little awkward at the beginning. Is it at the beginning or the second? No, it was good. I enjoyed it in the end. It was fun. So I didn't really have that much bad. Maybe my bad is like some of the technical choices. Even though there was this scene, the scene where they were fighting after the money has been stolen and Obi pick up a rock. That was all drone shot, right? And I kind of appreciated the way they did that drone shot in a way. But I also wish that it wasn't mostly drone shot. But I understand that it was drone shot was cheaper and it wasn't like a drone. It wasn't like the typical drone shot that we saw. I just wish that that one was more of a level of a was it a camera, leveled camera, right? That we can see them. We're more like eye level with them, but that would take much planning, much shot, and it was going to be more expensive. And they did very well with their drone shot thing. So that's more of like I wished it was a little bit different because I feel that the other different one will have been a little bit more impactful. But what you did was also not bad. Um, I have no problem with the convenience. I think they captured, even though yes, it's convenient. Yes, the thing that was the most ridiculous thing for me was definitely the car thing. Because I feel like they didn't say enough to be able to like forgive that, but I don't care. I truly don't care because I know this is a movie, this is a story. I don't necessarily, for me, it doesn't have to be believable. But like, I was just a little bit like, that car truck didn't do that, but it's cool. Um, yeah, it's kind of some of those choices. Some of the acting wasn't like there were times where the acting was awkward, but then again, it really did get better, and some of them were doing where if we're acting in a way that like okay, this is probably the way you should act. I That's my only bad about it. I felt like Kunle knows how to do a little bit more directing, technical something, and I felt like this was a little bit more too. It wasn't. It wasn't like October 1st, you know. It wasn't like that, or it wasn't like Anipulapo, you know, something like that. But I don't expect it to be, and it's okay. So I don't really have that much bad because I had a nice time. The story was fun. It was okay. It was good for me, and it was also good for my friend. The only thing she complained about was like reading.
Okay.
But I also thought I also had to read because there were some languages that I didn't understand. So, but that's it. I really don't have a bad.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Anka. This is C.
Again, I don't have organized thoughts about this. But what did I not like about Ijogbon? I didn't enjoy the acting of the leads. All four leads. I didn't enjoy their acting, which made it hard to just stay with the story and to care about what happened to them. I think it's been mentioned before, the romance / love triangle. I don't know where it came out from. Made absolutely no sense to me. There was absolutely nothing there to ship. And then when the other guy is going, oh, because you know me, I like you. I'm like, this is the most inopportune time as well. Like right now, you know, we are being kind of frantic at this moment. What else did I not like about this film? I don't know why we needed all those split screens. Maybe the ones at the end added something. I don't know. But the rest of it during the shopping spree, but I'll leave that as a nitpick. So my mom didn't finish this, right? She gave up at some point. She was like, how long is left? And there was still about 40 minutes left, and she noped out of here and left it. And the next day I was trying to explain to her what happened. And the more I tried to explain what happened, it was just really stressful. I'm like, okay, so they showed up here and they shot these guys, and they moved here and they shot these guys. All the shooting that happened in the mountains, with the parents just a few steps behind, right? Or some steps behind the shooting. Someone has mentioned all the calmness around finding corpses while you're on a trail to look for your children. Why so calm? How so calm? But there was inconsistency in the maturity level of the children, right? I know Omoba is a child. We leave Omoba alone. But the remaining three, there was inconsistency in their maturity level. right? 1 minute they're mature enough to deal with Chief, right? They're arguing with him they're bargaining with him on the, cost of the jewels. And even that scene where they're bargaining the cost of the jewels, right? They make to leave and there's his goons at the door. So they come back, right? Because, out of fear of the goons. But they're still holding to their guns on what they were bargaining on. And Chief gives in. It feels like there's absolutely no power to his goons whatsoever because he buys at their price and they don't budge. And that's that. Also savvy enough to know that he's doing illegal stuff, right? When he threatens them with the police, police will ask the papers for those cars you're smuggling, inside. But then they're in the forest going, if you shoot our friend, we'll shoot your friend. I don't think the kids who were in Chief's office doing that bargaining, the kids who could set him up to go find out Gabriel and BC, are the kids that are going to think this henchman is their friend and they can go, oh, if you shoot our friend, we shoot yours. The maturity levels did. It seemed like what Omoba would say, but not the older teens. And then my biggest qualm was I could not get behind Jamu's motivations. I just couldn't get behind it. We've thrown in the Japa wave. We've thrown in, yes, people are trying to Japa. But Jamu is a child, right? And again, you could go, well, he's immature. But I'm just looking at it going, I can't see his urgency to run away. He does not have the worst home life. He's tired of being poor. He now has an avenue to not be poor. He has diamonds, literal diamonds that have a lot. I don't know where he's running to. I can't see anything besides, oh my God, we want to leave this small town, normal, standard. But I can't see what is chasing him to decide on the journey across desert or what. He's like, yeah, sure. He's desperate enough not to wait a few, God knows how long it would take to get his passport. It's passports, that's his problem. Like the passport won't be ready in 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks. And he's now desperate to do that. I don't get it. I don't see what's chasing Jamu. And so I couldn't get behind any of his motivations, any of his speed, right? I couldn't get behind it. And then when we end with Obi going, oh, this diamond has caused problems and turned brother against brother, and she throws it off. I was going to throw her off the bridge as well, because is it the diamonds or is it Jamu being a dick? Right? Because 1 minute they were talking about removing 4 diamonds for Prince, which everyone agreed with. So where does Jamu go in? Oh, I don't want to give you your own share now. It doesn't track, it doesn't tie, and it stressed me out. And yeah, those are some of the things I didn't like.
All right. Okay. I have notes. Before I read mine, it's probably worth reading out Vanessa's bad. All right. Vanessa's bad. All right. Mr. C is actually awesome. You don't have to say it twice. Sound was bad. I didn't like the color grading, but that's to be expected with Kunle. I hate that in the however many years of his career as a director, Kunle is still a victim of the third act curse. I liked the pace of this until the third act, and I feel like some bits of their arcs were left hanging. All right. In comparison to her bad, in comparison to her good, quite short. All right. Things I did not like. All right, let me get my notes. Okay. Vanessa's just talked about the color grading, but yes, the color grading was not my favorite. I don't like it. Yes, Kunle was the person who started Orange until shouts, but it's not. As I've grown in life, I've found out that it's not just that it's Orange until. I mean, it's a look that has people copy too much, and it should be used appropriately, but it gets used everywhere. But aside that, just the way it's done is also just not nice. I think something like Inanna Kulakwa was better than this. There are parts in the sky where the sky just looks green, and sometimes this guy's head looks green. It's just not good. Subtitling is incomplete, and I don't know whether this is part of what Oyinkan's run was talking about. But like, both for English, it was mainly for English. Like, you put subtitles on, you should expect to have subtitles, but sometimes it just wouldn't tell you. And I could not understand what the Chinese man was saying. Also, the Chinese man was very, very bad. He was very, very bad. I couldn't tell. It generally sounded like they wrote English of somebody who, he might not actually be able to, probably English is not his first language, but it sounded like somebody who was struggling to read off a board. That's how all of his deliveries kind of were. For me, kids kind of felt interchangeable. I felt like you could have swapped any one of them in and they probably would have made the same decision. For any time they needed to make a decision, they've made the same decision that the other ones made. They didn't feel distinct enough for me. I know like some people have talked about, I'm not saying there wasn't anything to them at all. They just felt quite down the line, every one of them. I also thought the leads, I've already mentioned, I thought the leads acting were unconvincing. I think was a big problem because my ability to care about their journey was my inability to buy into them as characters. It just, for a lot of the time, and like people have said, especially at the beginning, it felt like I was watching like a primary school play, which didn't help my belief in this. The Japa messaging for me feels just incomplete. I might be missing something here, but like I don't know why it's in here, because it gets repeated a couple of times. It's not just our lead that's one of the leads that's trying to Japa, like the school teacher is also trying to Japa, like. And I'm not sure I don't know whether I just threw that in there because, like, yes, we're in a point where people are trying to Japa. I don't know. But, like, it didn't seem like anything was said about it. If it was said, I missed it. If anybody knows what it is, put it in the comments. I'm happy to read it out. But it just felt like they just threw that in there. And there were just little things like that, actually. If I could maybe I'll do that in my summary, but the film just felt like death by 1,000 cuts. There's nothing in this film that's particularly awful, bad. It's just like a lot of people said. A lot of them felt like conveniences. It's like, all right, okay, that one. The performance, okay, maybe, and it's just like, and it just felt like that all throughout the film for me. The people have talked about relationship. I said something. Oh yeah, the story. I said here the story probably suffers from leaning too hard on the metaphor. I think I wrote this because I felt like the Chinese guys giving the children the diamonds. I don't understand it. I felt like he wants to. It feels like he wants to sort of like mine the village for more resources. But I don't understand why that means giving the children the diamonds. Why? All of the diamonds as well. Like maybe a couple, saving their life was good. Why give them all of the diamonds? It doesn't seem like the kind of thing a greedy person who wants to mine a village would do. So a lot of the dialogue seemed pretty bad to me as well. Not awful, just flat and uninspired. And there weren't enough things that made me feel like, kids being kids. There was a little part in the beginning where they've stumbled upon diamonds and they go into the city to buy phones. I thought that was the most kids being kids thing in here. And I just felt like the rest, if you swap these for 20-year-olds, I don't think it changes the actions too much. But yeah, that's the things that I didn't like. Oh yeah, just generally, technically, I've seen Kunle do better technically. Even though, like, I think one part I forgot to mention, my good, is that I did like that he was a bit more experimental with some of his lens choices. Went a little wide, and did that. I can't remember where I've seen the technique before recently. I know I've seen it, and it's not that it's particularly new, but it's new in Nollywood-ish. And the style he used, I thought that was cool. But I just thought the whole, it didn't quite work. The cinematography in this is not my favorite. Some of the framings are not good, to put it lightly. But aside that, yes, yeah, that's my bad done. All right, so Pushback. Who wants to start off with Pushback? Just raise your hands and we'll go from there. All right, Inca, yeah, sure, go ahead.
It's just that I just want, like, yes, I agree with most of what you said. Like I said, it wasn't, what's it called? Anikolapo, it wasn't that. It felt like this was like a quicker movie that it made. But at the same time, it wasn't, I think it was okay. It was okay as a fun little movie. I do think that, like, some of the acting, it wasn't that some of the acting was bad. I just feel like maybe a lot of work should have gone into the atmosphere more than it should. And I think sometimes we what
Inca, is this a pushback?
This is a pushback. This is a pushback. This is a pushback. What's going on is that maybe Nigerian movies cannot do atmosphere in movies as much because to the atmosphere costs maybe more. I don't know, but my pushback is on the Chinese guy, right? Yeah, the something at the end made like no sense, but at the same time I'm willing to buy it because he believes that there is something bigger there, and he literally says it in Mandarin that, like, oh, I didn't come all the way from Beijing for just a couple of diamonds. And also, in all honesty, everybody is talking about reality. Diamonds aren't exactly that. They're useless. Not useless as in they can't be used, but like, okay, you find a diamond in the ground, you want to go sell it. Maybe because it's a digged up diamond, I guess. But like the bears, like, in all honesty, just because you found a diamond, you ain't gonna make that much money. You just ain't. Maybe because it's a raw diamond, I guess so. But like diamonds, people can make diamonds in the lab. Actual real diamonds. Diamonds are not that something. But it's my pushback here is now that it's a story. There's something bigger that it's trying to get into. And yes, there are many things I can't buy in reality. But once I sit down, I feel like once we sit down, I guess this is my own philosophy. I don't care if I normally buy whatever the writer is telling me because I need the writer to just set up the story. I don't need it to be as connected to reality or not. Because if I am to judge any movie or any book based on close to reality, nothing will ever win. Nothing will ever win. And I believe this is a constructed reality. It's a constructed reality. The writer is God. Tell me whatever, I'll believe it. And I think that should not be as much of a strong indicator to whether a movie has whether somebody wrote something well or not. I don't think that should ever be a strong indicator, because then you're just attacking the very level of writing. That's just how I feel.
Maybe
And
the
the Chinese
writing is
guy,
bad now.
Yeah. Okay. I think I don't even know. I don't know what the
writing,
pushback was.
Yeah,
I
like
just
you
again,
feel
said, the
like
writing is
something.
you,
bad.
I just feel like
you just
whenever
said essentially like, oh, the writing was he wrote things, so you should
yeah,
believe it
I,
because
I,
he
I
wrote
get,
the things.
no, people are getting me wrong. I'm not saying just believe it. I'm not saying just believe it. Obviously, you're going to put it into conversation whether something is too convenient or not. But I'm just saying that for me, even if something is too convenient or not, because I feel, if you ask me, I feel like most writing things are too convenient for things to be happening anyhow, any something. Maybe because I actually have a much higher, I have a much higher, higher bar of like, is this convenient or not? I think most writing is convenient. I think like the Black Knight was convenient. I think
All
like
right.
almost
Okay.
everything was
All right.
convenient.
Okay.
I
We're gonna
think
move on.
that, but
Metered. All right. We're gonna move on. Because you're not addressing anything. And I get it. You fine. All right. Itching. Do you have a pushback?
Yeah, I'm going to push back on a few things that people have said, and in some cases, I might actually just build upon them. One of the things I will start with is what you said, Mr. C. You talked about how when you watched it, you kind of felt like you were watching a primary school play, and that's exactly how I felt, and that's part of the reason why I haven't commented on this time, because I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to evaluate it, I have to evaluate it on its own terms. And I feel that a lot of Kunle Afolayan's movies have that feel of being like a secondary school play. I don't say this as a criticism; it's a stylistic choice, and in some ways it's good because it creates a sort of feeling of nostalgia. But it feels like Super Story or NTA Play of the Week. You know, there's that feel of it. There's something about it. As much as we talk about the world building in this movie, which was obviously invested into, there's something about the actual dramatization that feels kind of flat to me. I mean, there's one scene, in fact, that I looked at it and it was like literally a shot taken from the new village headmaster, you know? So a lot of the stuff has that old TV feeling to it. Okay, that wasn't a pushback. Um, the language thing, a lot of people have commended. I had mixed feelings about it. On one hand, in some places, I did feel that the multiplicity of languages showed something and said something about, the diverse nature of modern Nigeria. But in some places, it felt weird to me, and that was primarily amongst the kids. Like, most of their dialogue was in Yoruba. They spoke English once in a while. Sometimes they'll speak, they'll throw in a couple of lines of English. Or most of the English was spoken by Obi, and they'll speak to her in Yoruba, and she responds in English. That felt very weird to me because, in my experience, if you are hanging with a group of friends who are all from one particular ethnicity, and they are speaking their language consistently, that is a sign that they don't respect you. That's a sign that they're trying to freeze you out in some way. And yeah, we know that, Obi can speak a bit of Yoruba because she did have some Yoruba lines, but still, it just didn't. It felt disrespectful to me. It just made me feel that they didn't respect her. These are educated kids. I would think that if you had a friend who you knew was not from your ethnicity, you would speak mostly English for their benefit. Um, Let me see. What else did I want to comment on? Okay, a lot of people have talked about the thin characterizations. The characterizations in general are kind of thin, and again, that's part of the whole play-like feel of it. But specifically with the kids, that is true. Um, and I feel that this is, to some degree, a cultural issue because in Nigeria, culturally, kids are supposed to be seen and not heard. And I found that a lot of Nigerian movies struggle with trying to capture the voice of of children, younger people, and their real perspectives. Most of the time, children are presented the way that adults want kids to act, specifically in Yoruba movies, actually. And even here where we see them doing a little bit of rebellious stuff, it still feels like it's an adult's vision of what they want kids to be like. And I think that's interesting because recently there's been so much discourse about Nigerian parenting and Nigerian parents' um, inability to recognize the full humanity of their children. And you see this a lot in movies. I think that what was the name of that movie that came out a while ago? All Night Vibes. Yeah, that tried a little bit, but it was a bad movie in a lot of other different ways. But it's just hard to imagine something like Skins or Euphoria coming out of Nigeria because filmmakers just really seem intent on imposing um, this fake voice of children. Okay, let me see. What else did I want to comment on? Just two more points, I think. All right, one of them. Somebody said that atmosphere is not a big thing in Nollywood movies. That is true. And again, this is part of the whole play-like feel to it. But I don't think it has anything to do with money. I think it just has to do with the obsession with plot. People always talk about stories, and they think that story means plot. But there's so much. This is a visual medium. There's so many things that contribute to a story. Sound design is part of story. Costume design is part of story. Building an atmosphere is part of a story. And I don't know. Kunle's stuff to me often doesn't have much tangible atmosphere. I accept it as a style, kind of like Wes Anderson has his thing that is similar to that, and I love Wes Anderson, so I won't criticize him for that. And then finally, yeah, the jackpot thing is interesting. That felt kind of weird for kids this young. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe with the current young generation, things have gotten so bad that you even have 14-year-olds thinking of running to Canada. But I don't know. I would think that for a kid that young, especially in a small town, their dreams would be much smaller. Like, let's go to Lagos, not let's run out of the country and start our lives together. I mean, who at 14 is talking about starting their lives with a chick? Nah, man, that was kind of weird. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that covers all the points I wanted to make.
All right, thanks, Eugene. All right. I didn't see how people's hand went out. I'm just gonna go in the order I see on my screen. Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you. So, Sarangton, the pushback that I have, more or less like even an expansion, is Paul didn't mention about I think the kid finding the diamond and then the process before they could have gone. So apart from the fact that the logline has told us what, this film has also established that there's a diamond mine in Nigeria, which both of us and all of us know that does not exist. That's one. Two. When they were in that cave, there was already an argument. Is this real? Is this not real? Who would know Chief Owonikoko or whatever his name is called? And they went in there. So I think they went in there with a bravado that they will tell them it is fake and then they'll know. Or if they can pretend to be grown enough and which he did buy it and then went ahead to say how much for it. This is not even distant, but how much for it. So that's how they know it's real. I feel like if we had done this thing if they had fleshed it out any more than that, it will become spoon feeding. And I also feel like if the writer had spent more time building an emotional core with the kids, again, I'll keep referencing Family was dope, because this is almost very similar in parallels. If these kids had some form of obsession with like maybe precious jewelry or something, or stones or whatever, maybe would have established something more concrete. But I feel like if you had done all of the things that you described, that would be very one telenovela, and also it will be spoon feeding the audience, and I don't think it's necessary.
All right. Somebody who spoke about like characterization of the kids need to be fleshed out. I think, and to be honest, I get it, because Nollywood, we don't even bother, or we don't even give. But I think, well, for me, let me not tell you what you as a viewer should want, but I need to demand more from Nollywood directors than this kind of directorial thing. This thing where you can hear the direction where it's just vague. It's like, you're happy together. I remember it in Collision Course, where Daniel's character and his wife are in the car, and they're just like, I could hear it. Oh, you guys, you're happy together as a couple. And they were just, and like, you just know there's nothing to it. There's nothing. It's just, they've just been told you're happy. The chase, the running down the thing, there wasn't a lot to it. It was nice. I put it as one of my goods for establishing shot, but like, this is where you now actually need your writers to write good dialogue about actual things that kids go through. And that's all it would have needed to be. Interesting, good dialogue from kids' perspectives. And that would have been, like, made me feel, and then they needed to have performed it well. And then that would have been, look, actual kids, I might care about these people now. That's from a characterization of things. I don't even think you don't need to extend anything for me to have added more layers to them. All right. Pearl?
Present, sir. Okay, so just to buttress that a bit more, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry, because I switched to my earpiece. Yeah, so I think sometimes when we say more, I think people hear more scenes. It's not more scenes, it's just the scenes that you've chosen, do more with them. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And also, I think, Elizabeth, you're fudging a bit when you say the kids went. I don't even think you were convinced when you were saying that the kids went in with a question. They did not go in with a question. They went in with a certainty. You're now saying like they went in like not believing, but if they act like they know. Nope, that was not what I saw on that screen. I'll leave that there. Then I think it was Timmy who said that the kids, when he was talking about like how they all love, the parents clearly love their kids. Yeah, they do, but saying that none of the kids were like punished, or I was like, is it the same movie that we watched? Maybe they kept beating the girl, and that's one big note I had, by the way, which was, I don't know if any of you not very long ago saw kind of like tweets where somebody started a thread on how Nigerian parents and relatives will be the first to sexualize you as a female child at home before you ever went out. The first people who will call you a prostitute, the first people, not like they would actually come out and say, oh, you're a prostitute or anything, but the first people who will make you ashamed of your body, ashamed of your sexuality as a girl, child in Nigeria are first your parents, your uncles, your female relatives, also not just your male relatives. It's from your house that they'll first call you names before you go out, you're kind of already primed for abuse. So when I saw that scene, we've praised that relationship between Obi and her mom. But when I saw that scene where the mom said you're running around with boys, and then next thing she poked her in the chest, in her breast like that, and then the girl, you could see the way she cringed into her body. That's something that I think a lot of women will understand, because that's where it starts. By the time you go out into the wider world, you already have an uncomfortable relationship with your body. So I could never praise that relationship. And then the last time again, we know again. I mean, I do agree with the fact that, yeah, it's an authentic expression of like Nigerian parents, how they relate. We know that Nigerian parents, they are annoyed, they beat you, they are happy, they beat you, and all of that. But can we please not talk about it like it's a positive? The boys, and this is also like a very like direct narrative about how girl children are trained differently from male children. The boys were being hugged and, probably being thought of as brave or whatever it is. They were the ringleaders. This girl was actually among all of them. She was the only one, their Hermione Granger. She was the only one bringing any level of like sanity to that group. How many times did she stop things escalating into absolute chaos and so on? But she's the only one that got quote unquote disciplined. And then that stupid leader of the Amotokun group, when he came upon that, and starts to lecture the kids about discipline your children and this and that, I was like, he saw that girl being beaten, Like, is he saying don't beat your children or beat your children more? Which one is it? So yeah, that was very distressing. And this is me just saying to Timmy that I think it probably went right over some people's heads that there was no like beating or discipline. Is it perhaps because it was the girl, and that's kind of like normal to see? Anyway, yeah, that's it.
All right, thanks, Pearl. Going to go to Marshmallow, and then to me.
Okay, so this is a slight pushback, but it's about the motivations of the kids. And when I started watching it, I think one of the movies or the pictures I'd seen before that I tried to relate this to was the 2008 movie Jumper, because it posed the question of, if you were a kid and then you ended up with this superpower where you're able to, jump and find yourself in some other place, what would you do? And one of the first things that character did was he jumped into the vault of a bank and stole as much money as he could, and then started, going around the world and trying to impress his girlfriend and stuff like that. So I related it here with the kids, which is, they're living simple lives or whatever. At the time, their biggest dream was to go to Benin Republic, not even Lagos at the time, it was even Benin Republic. But by the time they finally had money, they started having ideas of, I want to have an iPhone. Then all of a sudden, I want to go abroad. Maybe, the traveling through the desert to Europe or whatever thing was a bit too much. But I could now start to understand why, finally you get 2 million naira cash in your hand and you really start to dream really, really big. So I will give the writer a bit of grace in that aspect, which is at the end of the day, these are kids, they don't really have a lot of frame of reference in life, but they happen on some money by luck, they never expected to have. So I can get why they start to do things that are not typical for children or young adults for that matter. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Marshall. It's just like I think sometimes that falls into the stupid or insane thing. Well, you can excuse them as anything with someone is stupid, insane, or it's just a child. They're just being weird. Sometimes it's just bad writing. I don't know. Well, obviously we'll draw those lines differently, but I hear you. All right. Timmy, please go on.
Pearl, to be very honest, I didn't remember the beating part till you mentioned it. But when I was talking about beating, I was referring to the Kwankere Kuboko type of beating, kneel down, raise up your hand, that type of punishment. That was what I was referring to, just to be clear. Um, I think Elizabeth said something about the preachiness. If I'm going to be very honest, I feel like when Femi Adebayo came and he was telling the parents, "Oh, you should discipline your children," this is that, that. It felt very realistic because it is something I have actually experienced. I remember a time somebody in our area went missing. We're looking for the person, and to cut the long story short, when the police found the human being that went missing, the police officer and his group of people were like, "Oh, you parents need to be paying more attention to your kids." I don't know. I feel like it's just like, the way a lot of these Nigerian elders, they shall just, they must have a say in the way you raise your. It just feels like that is their own, what will I call it, their own given right to have a say in, to shall put their mouth in how you choose to raise your kids. So that's why I feel like that dialogue that Femi Adebayo gave, it felt, yes, it was preachy, but it felt realistic. Um, I think somebody mentioned the trail in the car, something, something, something. Why do you see a trail and choose to follow it? What I think is that the car that went into the bush was the car that was chasing. I don't know his name. I don't know the actor's name. But Shad, the big car that was chasing
the guy that died, the guy that fell into the ditch. I mean, you're living in a very small, what I call it, in a very small village, in a poor village, in a poor town or whatever. You know that you've never seen a car with tires this big. I think was it Jamu? I think Jamu said it that these tires are big. So I think it just makes sense that seeing car tire trails this big in a bush path in this village, it just seems like something off. So yeah, that's something we should explore. Somebody also mentioned how what's his name? Bronte saw Gabriel's character and was like, how did he know that this was the person that stole the Kini Kankan? I mean, Gabriel literally told Bronte that, oh, fashi the money that I gave you, and he was holding what I call it, Ghana must go, and he seems to be rushing somewhere. So at least to me, if you add the three things together, that's basically the first thing that will come to my mind. First of all, I'm owing you money, and now you're saying that I should fashi the money. You get that
To,
kind of thing.
can I say, to be fair to him, it felt like it felt like he was going to interrogate him for him when he was going, oh no, I have your money. He was already calling out to him before that. It like the way it was shot, except if I'm misremembering, it just seemed like he saw him and even Gabriel saw him and it felt like, oh, we've clocked each other. And then before he's now starts saying, I have your money.
Okay, that actually makes sense. That makes sense. Somebody also said something about the king's son having an iPhone. That is not many many. If I'm going to be very honest, it's not the king of, I don't know, say Ibadan or like a much bigger town. It's a very small village, a village that can't even afford to buy things to store their food and process their food. So, I mean, where is the king's son getting a whole
A
ODD
king in
iPhone 13
Nigeria is still
Pro?
a king in Nigeria. We have a king in Edo State, in Benin City, in fact. Let's not.
Wait, huh? I'm sorry, I didn't get. No, I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
actually, I wanted to make the same point. A lot of the so-called kings in these small towns do not have money. I mean, we're not talking about the Oni of Ife or something like
They
that.
Yeah,
do
yeah, that's
have
what I mean.
money.
Well, okay. That's just
They have jewelry. They might not have, maybe you're thinking they don't have billions in their account, but they are constantly gifted things and they can afford a used iPhone for their prince if they wanted to.
Yep. And
But I mean,
they're the ones with access to all the community development funds that come in. So be the first ones to have put hands on those kinds of money.
and I guess if you probably want to build a mine, if you want to give somebody a gift, so if you want to gain favor, you would be giving that guy plenty gifts.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that's basically all the pushback I wanted to say. The one last thing I think I wanted to say was how, yes, I do agree that a lot of things should have been better explored, but I just feel like if they did that, it would. I mean, people are already complaining that the pacing was bad, this, that. To me, I can't imagine how. I don't know how they would have been able to pull it off without making the pacing even worse. So I just choose to like just accept the film the way it is. I don't. But that's just me. I don't have any qualms about any of the choices. So yeah, that's just it.
All right, thanks, Timmy. Wayne's rants.
I feel so bad now because I was going to push back on something that Timmy said, and I have forgotten. I was too interested in what he was saying. I wasn't taking notes. But I have other pushbacks. For the language thing, someone had commented. You've not read the comment yet. About how he doesn't think the language thing is disrespect. But I was going to also push back on that comment and second what I think Uchenna said. I have French friends. I live in a very multicultural community. I have French friends. I have most of the Nigerians that are around me don't even speak my language. And we used to even have issues in my choir when the French people would start speaking French amongst each other, and we'll be like, we're literally having a conversation now. Why would you just turn to someone else and speak French? I think it would just feel very disrespectful if you had a core friend group and they were constantly speaking a language that they know you are not fluent in, especially if they are fluent in a language that you're also fluent in. It doesn't make sense. If I can speak English and you can speak English, then let's just speak English. Why are you speaking Yoruba when you know that my Yoruba is somehow? Um, Someone okay, was Oyin Consola before you rudely cut her off. Sorry. But she was going somewhere, although it was really far, but she was going somewhere. She was talking about the Chinese man, and she was like, she didn't really see an issue with that. But I think my major pushback on that, because it's an issue with that. Like, nobody is throwing away $10 million worth of diamonds, right? And it's like, oh, I want more. I want. It doesn't make sense. Like, oh, I want to dig the ground, so the $10 million in hand now, I'll throw it away because there can be like no, right? So him giving them the money, that doesn't make sense. Let's not even try. Um, I think it was Uchenna that said people were talking about like 40-year-olds, and I think they are probably 16, 17 ish. When I was 16, I had, at least in my head, my life figured out. When I was 14, I already knew I wanted to go to school in Canada. That didn't work out. But so my little pushback was on the thing of um this is like unrealistic for kids to be planning this thing. I have worked as a school teacher, and I had 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds telling me that when they finish secondary school, they are leaving Nigeria. Right. So it's not really like it's not that far fetched. A lot of things that happens in the story is very far fetched. I think we agree on that. But like the fact that 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds are like planning to leave Nigeria, I don't think it's far fetched. However, I also agree with what Mrs. C said, that their maturity levels is dilly dally. Like sometimes they seem to be very mature, and then they act like kids. So it's like if you're going to create them as these kids that are mature kids, then let them be that. And if they're going to be stupid kids, then let them be that. But then don't let them be stupid in scene one and then mature in scene two. Yeah.
All right, thanks for internet. Creative Fingers.
All right, thank you. I don't know if I'll be able to get this across. Okay, but I'll just push back on Timmy's idea that we should accept whatever, yeah, we'll accept, but then we'll keep the conversation and observations, right, so that we can keep on growing. And my important observation then is the fact that there was no main character. I mean, if there was a main character who had the motivation and then other characters around him, then the story would progress with a narrative, that would make the characters want lead them to their struggles. One minute they wanted to leave the environment, and then it happened that they got the funds, but then they went to spend it on stuff that didn't matter to them, right? Because that wasn't what they wanted at the beginning. So why are you buying new clothes? Why are you buying a phone? You want to leave, right? You want to get a better life. That's why you're talking to your father the way you're talking to your father. And I think Jamie is supposed to be the main character here. So I'm just going to assume he's the main character because, isn't he the main guy out of the four of them? But he didn't, he kept on wanting to do something until the end and nothing happened. For me, the first scene, which was the race, the car chase scene, splendid, man. I thought, wow, okay, after the black book, great, this is something. And then I was waiting for the film to start until the end for me because there was no want. They didn't follow any want. And so everything was just happening to them. They were going any direction. You could see it clearly. And I think that's just where all the problems came from. And, so it was just specific situations that were interesting. And then the actors tried their best, man. The actors were good for me, man, because they were the only reason why, this anybody could watch this. Particularly apart from apart from the kids, the chief, the Gabriel's character. Yeah, I think that's they really did well. I think yeah, so for me, I think we just there was no intentional choices because of all this, and the story was there was no story for me.
Okay. Thank you. Rotimi, you're up next. Do you have any pushback?
Yeah, I do have pushback. Where do I start from? I think can I push back on the pushback on me? Can I do that?
You can push back on yourself. Go right ahead.
Okay. So I think what if just to I think it was even Timmy that said it. So the two instances where I pointed out. Let me go to specifically the one where Ramsey and Gabriel's character. I don't have a problem that he clocked that Gabriel was acting suspiciously. All I asked for was like how it was shown. I just felt like it was something that was a highlight point, that how does this guy click, and like almost the point where he realizes that Gabriel is acting funny and he notices something, which he even snatches the phone. I'm just like, okay, that point, push it in. Then the other thing I'm talking about is I think that there's a peculiarity about Kunle Afolayan style, and I think that if anybody has been watching this movie for a while, there's a particular pattern. And I have a friend that describes it that it has a hallmark kind of style approach to the filmmaking. And so I'm like, okay, so there's a particular way when we talk about that thing, it feels like a play, or feels like it's even plays across when we talk about how the characters act, how the dialogue goes, that there's not too much like in terms of characterization or dramatization, and it sounds kind of flat. So I'm like, this is the approach. If there's another way, you can probably, somebody has also described him as like a modern day like Tunde Babalola. As far I can see similarities in what I think like Kalani's approach to filmmaking in his own. And I think it's a stylistic choice. I don't think anybody has a stylistic choice. It's necessary that, oh, this thing is bad. Like, because I think our directors have their different approaches. So like almost like Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson has this whole thing for centralizing every shot he wants to take. Tarantino has this weird thing with dialogue where he uses curse words, where some people are like, why is there so much cursing, so much violence? And Guy Ritchie has this thing he does where he picks things with his editing. So I think that Tunde has a style, and he's consistent with it. He's consistent with it, and it's probably, if I'm looking at it across the board that people have worked with Netflix, is probably the most consistent person delivering content for them. Whether we like the content or not, man, just like he has a style. Whether you like the style, everything. I don't think if you like a style or not liking a style, it's not that the style is bad. That's just for me. That's just my own 2 cents about that. The I think that this is one thing about, like, even when we come about the issues of even preaching. I don't know if anybody remembers For Maria. There's one particular part in For Maria when Meg's character was in the supermarket. Then there was one Yoruba woman that was like, "Oh, hold your child," and the way the child is crying, you're not holding it. You should give the child agbo. So I think it's also a cultural thing, especially among Yoruba people, to offer all those kind of advice, or kind of like trying to form some kind of teaching. And I think that also, if you look at the settings, like things like Anikulapo and even this, the Yoruba setting leans more into that. The more of the story, we're trying to get a point across. We're trying to say something morally, and why we're saying that, oh, these diamonds are bad because of the greed. At least 9 characters died because of those diamonds. The Oba, the young kid, was shot. So that is the point, that this search for this wealth, this desire for this wealth, has like negative consequences. So I can get behind that. Maybe it might be preachy, maybe not be preachy, but I'm like, that's quote unquote the moral of the story, that this search for this greed for this thing will destroy people. So I'm fine with that. I can understand it, I can get behind it. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Rotimi. I guess I'm with you on the style thing. I mean, there's some things that have their own problems independent of style, but I might be with you on the style thing.
Can I also tell Rotimi that I think it's fine to mix old school. It's fine to have your own style or do the old school stage play type thing, but when you start doing modern lenses, it can clash.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard Mr. C. He was saying he thinks it's fine to have your own style and make your style a bit more old school. But when you start putting in with,
Yeah,
putting it with modern lenses and modern influences, it does
yeah.
tend to clash, and that can be
The most cinematic thing anybody has ever done is still like Ayimofe. But that's that's a unicorn now. It's not everybody can bring that. A lot of these things are a digital approach. I don't even believe that some of these approaches are actually fitting. They are the right tone for some of the stories sometimes. But Kunle has an approach. That's what I've noticed, and he's consistent with it. The way he goes about his productions.
Consistency is nice. Growth would be nicer in some ways. But yeah, Otas, you have your hand up. What did you want to say?
I had 3 quick pushbacks. So those are children and their maturity thing and it being inconsistent. And I do find that it's quite normal for children to be mature in some areas but not in others. It's kind of the appeal of like children and teenagers kind of thinking you know everything, but the reality of it being that you know not as much as you think you do. Second thing is that pushing back on what Rotimi said, a stylistic a stylistic choice is a thing, but it can be bad and mismatched to the story being told. And in this case, I feel like it is. And then final note, read the phone and the king's son. I think what could have helped, since they were staying in the palace, and it's not as if they were a visitor, like they did not have any access to even confirm. They very, very easily could have done a simple confirmation in the story with the king, like, oh, your son's phone is so nice, where did you get it from? Or anything at all of that nature. It just seemed very lazy to just assume that the king's son just would not have access to a phone. I don't know.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yes, I agree with that. I don't want this to be a pushback to a pushback, but yeah, when I said the maturity levels of the children was confusing, it's not just about teenagers being, kids can be mature in one aspect and immature in one other aspect. Some things are just relatively consistent across different ages, and sometimes they were acting 12 and sometimes they were acting 17. And are you writing characterization for a 12-year-old, or are you writing characterization for a 14-year-old, or are you writing characterization for a 17-year-old? Because especially during those years, there is a massive difference between, 2 years, 3 years, that kind of thing. I think I don't know if this was Timmy who said, because I had this in mind as well. He said something about at 16 having your life figured out and knowing where you want it to go. And I don't disagree. I mean, like a lot of us wrote JAM really young, we were choosing, which course to study in university at that age and all of that stuff. It's just, again, I was looking at those teenagers as people who should be writing WAEC and JAM next year, except Omoba. So again, why are you so trapped? Why are you running off to Canada? What is happening in Canada? All with the exception of the guy who's going to seminary, I could get him, and he's not the one who is in that who's that desperate to take a weird journey across borders. I can understand having a plan, knowing what you want, but I don't see why somebody who has WAEC to write next year is trying to go through the desert to get to Canada. None of those children seem like kind of going to hustle. So I don't know what the plan was. But again, we could also go with, well, they're teenagers. They don't have sense.
There you go. Who's got this one?
I just want to say, Omoba didn't necessarily want to go to Canada. Remember when we first met him?
I'm not including him in that. Omoba did not want to go to Canada.
Also, Jimmy was the one that was very much about going out. And he did mention one thing, poverty, and he did mention that his mother died and his father is not doing anything about. His father was still staying here. The teacher was moving to Canada. He's a kid that kind of it's believable for me that when you're 16, you feel like you figured everything out, because I felt that way too when I was 16. And it's easy for you to believe at 16, especially if there is a culture of like you're on the internet and everybody's saying, if you go out of Nigeria, there's opportunity. There's that culture that is happening. There's that thing that is happening. And you feel like that's going to solve your answers. You feel like it's going to solve your answers. So it's about his internal something mostly. It doesn't necessarily need to have outside, because I deal with kids. I work in the educational system too. And some of those kids, when they're teenagers, you as an adult, you listen to them. They in themselves, they believe they figure everything out, and what they're saying makes no sense to you. Literally, this one, I'm telling you, I deal with teenagers, and they have figured it out. What they're saying makes no sense to you as an adult, because you're like, the world is really going to slap you in the face if this is your plan. But they would just tell you that they figure it out. And they say it with such understanding and such something like that. So it is believable to me that it is there. But also, none of that really matters. My ultimate thing is, I think now I can say it properly. I couldn't really figure it. In a story, what is the theme and the thing that that story is saying? And does everything in that story sort of work to present that to the audience? This is why I feel like this movie, yes, a lot of things were convenient, but I accept the convenience because it's actually very focused. It's focused on the something that it wants to say. Meaning some things may seem like a blessing, but it's actually a curse. It told us the story in the beginning, and every other choice that was made in the story push towards that. And in actuality, it's a very focused story. It doesn't really go down anyway. And I think that's what they did. And I think that's why, generally, yes, is there holes in it? Yeah, but generally, everybody understands what it was saying, and there was no like that much confusion. What we're talking about is like, oh, the characters in reality, they should do this in reality. But okay, that's in reality. But the story is meant to convey something very particular, and then you judge it based on that on that, like, does it convey that particular thing? Well, that's how I do it. Other people can do it a different way, and I think it does. I think it really just does. It just works. It's a one straight something. It's a basic writing. It's writing 101, and they did it well enough. Also, a pushback. I didn't say the Chinese guy doing the thing, giving them was smart. I actually said the opposite. I wasn't going there. I was just saying what the story conveyed to us, that's the motivation. The story was just like, oh, he wanted the bigger thing. I even said that makes no sense that you give them that something, but okay, whatever. So you you misunderstood me. You misheard me. That's it. That's my pushback.
Who misheard you? Who misheard you?
It was me. It was me. No vex.
Okay. All right. Team. I don't know if it's to me.
Somebody said something about me collecting the story like that. I'm not trying to say like, oh, the film doesn't have faults. It's just that this is, I don't know how to explain it. It's completely different where, like, you know that, okay, this particular choice that you guys made, it does not work at all. But for this particular film, I feel like, yes, it was too convenient. Yes, there were some things that could have been done better. But like, overall, when you're looking at like the big picture, it helped to tell the story from point A to point B. And as long as the way they told the story made perfect sense, at least to me, I would collect it like that. Yes, it has its issues. I know it has its issues, but it's not something that I would say I want to like dwell upon. You've told your story. I have collected your story. Your story makes sense. Thank you very much. Another thing is everybody was talking about, some people are talking about the acting being bad. I kind of feel like it was an intentional choice by the director because I feel like it wasn't just the child actors that were acting that way. Even the performances from the adults felt kind of, will I say, flat. And so the children also given that type of, is it children I'll call them now? I mean, the teenagers given that type of performance, it just feels like, at least to me, it feels like that's what Kunle Afolayan was going for. I don't know. And another thing was, I heard someone talking about, what's his name, Jamil wanting to japa this, that he has exams to write. If I think I remember clearly, was it Obi that told Jamil that he should just pass his exams and then he can jackpot? So I think maybe he was thinking, or what he's looking at is that, okay, I'm going to write my exams, now I'm going to jackpot. What doesn't make sense to me, though, is the fact that you've never started writing your exams and now you want to collect your passport sharp, sharp. That part didn't make sense to me. And um, I also feel like him wanting to go across the desert, Mediterranean, blah 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 blah. I just feel like as a son of a principal or whatever it is you are, I feel like maybe he could have settled down to actually do research, proper research on how to japa and leave Nigeria through the education route or whatever. Because I mean, people do jackpot to Canada through what's it called, by going to their universities and stuff like that. So you that have an exam, instead of you to call one Emeka who probably wants to scam you, you that you're the son you're the son of a principal, you're the one that is put Kilorukwe or Moba on that to supervise. I expected him to be like a bit smarter and actually like take his time. And yeah, that's basically what I want to say.
All right, thanks, Timmy. Uchenna.
Okay, yeah. First of all, I just wanted to sort of co-sign something that Rotimi said. He mentioned Hallmark. I actually had that written in my notes, but I ended up not saying it. Yes, I think that Kunle's movies do tend to feel sort of Hallmarkish. And again, I don't really say that as a criticism. It's a stylistic choice. That's fine. Another thing that Rotimi said that I also wanted to jump on was when he was talking about this sort of Yoruba tendency towards didacticism. I want to say something like that, but I held my tongue because I know that, Twitter is very prickly ethnic wise, and I didn't want people to see it as me attacking Yoruba people in any way. But I do think that is a cultural trademark. When I first said that it's a cultural thing, I actually meant Yoruba, but then I expanded it into Nigerian. The other thing I would say, who was it Timmy who pushed back on me about what I said about the whole jackpot thing? Like, look, here's the thing. I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic for a 15 or a 16-year-old to know that they want to go abroad. I mean, believe me, when I was like 10 years old, I already knew that my future lay in America. So, but to the level of desperation that is being expressed there, to me, feels like something that doesn't really set in until you're in uni. But then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it through the eyes of my own experience. I grew up somewhat middle class, so I didn't really have that feeling of that really, really hardcore struggle. Like I must leave this country immediately. I just knew that one day I was going to go abroad. But the thing is, even in his own life, I didn't see that hard scrabble struggle either. So maybe that's the thing. Maybe, people have already spoken about it, how the characterization and motivation seemed a bit unclear, and the lives of the kids did not seem that terrible for the most part. So I guess I didn't see it. And at the same time, I didn't see that. I didn't see enough of a strong relationship between him and Obi to the point where he's talking about we have to run out of this country and start our lives together. I mean, in some ways, you can say that it sounded juvenile, which is appropriate for the characters. But I don't know, the way the way it was expressed, it sounded like something that somebody who was much older, who had a much more jaded attitude towards life would have. But I mean, it's not a big deal. I didn't mention it as some huge criticism. It was just an observation.
All right. Thanks, Uchenna.
Thanks, Uchenna. Yeah, I do think if he was older, I could buy that a bit more.
All right. Creative Fingers. Creative Fingers.
All right. Yeah, I just think it's important that I also make this statement, right? Because the reason why I would say there's no story here is because of the fact that I feel like, for me, I feel like for there to be a story, there have to be a main character that goes through a transformative journey, right? To learn, to change. And this main character didn't learn, didn't change until the final scene. I mean, I wouldn't even say he learned anything in the final scene because I would have to watch, afterwards to know whether he got the message. But then I believe that the film can only communicate to us through the main character, and it's clear that his wants changed close to the midpoint to saving his friend. But there was no connection from the start, so you just felt like his desire line was clouded, you know. And then even his choice of the lane during the search of the diamond, that does not place the life of his friend above everything else. You know, so he was waiting for people to come, and there was a gun, you know, like so. That's why I'd say there was no story, despite the interesting tale and performance and great job, really. You know, yeah.
All right. And Wayne's rants, and then we do summaries.
So I remembered my it came back my pushback on Timmy's pushback. So Timmy was talking about the car that they saw truck tires, and they're like, oh, this should be interesting, and they decided to explore it. Like, if it was something that they saw and like, oh, this is weird, I would understand. But following the trail to what end?
We've lost Wayne for a bit. Sure, he's going to come back. But in the meantime, thanks for everybody. Let me read out some comments, and then we'll do the summary. This is from Vivian. I'm guessing this is Vivian. Having to disagree with the criticism of language, personal experience, it's rarely a lack of respect. Their default language is what they'll naturally go with, especially when they know you understand it. And you who can speak it a bit will stick with English that you're comfortable with. There says, summary, this movie felt like a training project. All right, okay. Let's do our summaries. Timmy, do you want to kick us off?
So I actually, what the hell? I completely enjoyed this film. From yes, I totally agree with the bars everybody has given, but um, like I said, all in all, in overall, it was a wonderful experience for me watching the film from the beginning to the end. I don't know, maybe because, well, this year hasn't been the best, but this film felt very new and refreshing, and yes, I enjoyed every bit of it.
All right, no, thanks, Timmy. Marshmallows.
So my overall experience was that it wasn't enjoyable. I mean, I I I had a lot, I was excited. I was looking forward to enjoying it, but then I didn't. It's just I had to keep like an open mind watching it because I wanted to be respectful to the efforts of everybody involved in this. But honestly, at some point, I was over it, and I was very happy when no, I was relieved when it ended because I didn't have to continue with it. But yeah, well, it's on Netflix, and so I will still encourage everyone to watch it. But for me, it wasn't an enjoyable experience overall.
All right, thanks, Marshmallows. Rotimi.
Well, I actually really enjoyed watching this. I think for a young adult movie that's happening in a believable Nigerian setting, I think that it was a believable world that's set in a Nigerian setting that I can recognize. I feel like there's one thing that people describe us that we're a third world country. We are a third world country, and we have first world aspirations. And I think that also applies kind of to even the one we talk about storytelling. And I know that there's really bad, and I think that the context I like to apply when I watch a movie is like in relation to the rest of Nollywood and everything. I know there are really horrible things. Like when there are really horrible things, you will not even see me on this space. Like when I think something is like, okay, this looks as though there's a step up, I'm like, okay, and I want to give it a chance. And I don't think that it's a perfect movie. It's far from a perfect movie, but I actually think as a Nollywood movie, as a industry growing and trying to improve, I think it's a good movie for Nollywood. And if they're like I like the thing Mr. C said, Mrs. C said about like there's consistency and there's growth. What we really think everybody wants to see is really growth. We want to see things improve. And I think like, okay, that's actually fair. So, but in terms of production quality, in terms of now, I'm just deciding on that. In terms of general, the big projects in Hollywood, there's a certain level of, in terms of even if it's just camera work, production quality, art design, there's an effort to try and improve things. There may be still things we can question about the story, but there's an effort to try and improve. And I think Kunle is one of the people spearheading that, and I enjoyed this. Thank you.
All right, thanks for it to me. Elizabeth.
So I'd say that I watched this film first. The experience overall was, I think after watching it, I felt relieved. That's the word I'm looking for, because last week's movie annoyed me so much and I wasn't looking to go into bed annoyed. So I felt relieved because, it's YA. First half almost got me, I thought he was going for excellence, but then he wobbled. But it doesn't really matter because it seems at this point that he has ditched ambition for telling the sort of stories that he would rather tell in the first place. So good luck. I would also say that I would have enjoyed it more if there was an emotional core to the characters, tying all four characters together. I enjoyed the subtext. I've missed seeing subtexts in films in Nollywood, actually, past social commentary, not just social commentaries, but actual subtext. I did not enjoy the didacticism that started. I wanted to throw my laptop away. I enjoyed the picture, the use of music. I hated the sound. Overall, it's an okay watch. It is not the worst. In fact, I felt like this is the first film I'm watching this year, apart from the ones that I watch on YouTube, that has not annoyed me in any bit. So, yeah, I would recommend it. So maybe, you have nothing to do, you're bored, you can watch it. Don't go with too much expectations. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Appreciate as always. And next we have Wayne's rants, if he's back.
Yes. I don't know. I'm so sorry. My internet is just been. Just my ending summary. Sorry, I forgot how to speak English for a while there. Yeah, it was a very average film. I was telling my friend before I started it that one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this film is because I knew it wasn't going to be bad. Was it going to be good? I wasn't sure, but I don't think I have seen a Kunle Afolayan film that is bad, like not AY level bad. So yes, so it was okay. I would have really preferred if the four teenagers, our main characters, mattered to me. I would have really preferred if their love triangle, whatever they're going to do, they really mattered. But generally, as a general watch, it's just average. It's a five. It's five. If we are going to be very generous, maybe a 6. But it was just okay. I probably would watch it again, but it's not the best thing since sliced bread. But it's okay. Like I think I've used so many words to say it's average. It's like it's good. Yeah.
All right. All right, thanks. I appreciate that, Wayne's rants. And next we have Pearl. Pearl, if you are close to your phone, Mike, this is your time to do your summary, calling at Pearl. All right, if not, Ainkan, do you want to give us your summary?
Sorry, I'm here. My phone is always in another room. Okay, yes, summary. This movie, like, I'm not gonna lie. This movie was almost 2 hours, and it took me almost 5 hours to watch the movie. I think for me, I always go into a movie with like all the best intentions. I'm a film reviewer, aren't we all in this place? But I have a review channel, right? So sometimes you're already thinking review mode, critic mode, but I take myself back, try to just enjoy the movie. But there's some things I don't argue with, and two things I never argue with are, number one, how I'm feeling while watching the movie. Like, if a movie is holding you don't have to fight to sit still. You don't. When you find yourself just drifting, you pick up your phone, you do this, you do that, then you're like, let's come back and continue. Then it raises the question: would I really, like, if something happened and I went away, would I feel like I lost anything if I didn't finish this movie? Nope. Like, if I was curious, somebody could summarize this movie to me, like, by mouth, and I would be like, okay, got it. So that's a feeling I don't argue with. The other thing I don't argue with is how I feel at the end of the movie. I don't interrogate to feel. I feel and then interrogate, why did I feel or not feel whatever I was supposed to feel. And then when I felt like I didn't really care, about these kids and their story and their journey and their jackpot and their diamonds and all the things, nothing changed for me. Like, kind of, if I was plugged to an EKG machine at the start of this movie, I'm sure it'll be a straight line start to finish. I didn't, like, maybe I chuckled a few times, but my heart rate didn't, like, go up or anything. There was no real, like, excitement. It was okay, pleasant enough viewing experience, but that's it pretty much. So when I feel that way, then I start going back and checking myself, like, okay, what was not crafted? Where were the emotional beats missing? Where were the missed opportunities? That's when my critic hat comes on, and that's when I start picking apart the story and saying, oh yes, see, if this had been plotted like differently, this way or that, or the structure had, like, that's where the interrogation comes in. So that's what we're doing now, unpacking why it did not give what it was supposed to give. But it starts with, did it give? Before then, why didn't it give? And for me, it didn't give. Like, it was enjoyable enough. That's it, really. And I want more. It's fine that it's on Netflix, but would this be, for instance, a worthwhile cinema experience? Nope. Okay, thank you.
Oh, all right. Thanks, Paul. And if you want, you guys check her YouTube review channel. She does good reviews. All right. Atas.
Hi. You might hear a girl screaming in the background. I'm just combing her hair. But, so my general summary here is that I didn't hate this, which is good. I don't know that I watched it again, but I think I would if somebody else was watching it, or if they wanted to, or if they were kind of wondering what movie was on. So that's kind of where it falls for me. It's like a solid maybe 6. So that's really my summary. I enjoyed some of the performances. I like the parents, at least 2 or 3 sets of parents in this movie a lot. Sam Dede was a win in this. So was Obi's mom. However, the story had too many conveniences for itself there and was not just enough flow as well as it should have.
All right. Thanks, Atas. Is that and Creative Fingers? Before Creative Fingers, sorry, it's Uchenna, I think. Uchenna.
Okay, yeah. I thought the movie was fine. It's not the sort of thing that I would normally watch. Again, I acknowledge that I'm probably not the target audience. I respect what Kunle Afolayan does a lot, but I don't think his movies are made for me. Like Pearl said, it's fine for streaming. If I watched this in the theater, I would probably feel a little bit more verklempt. But it's just fine. It's something you watch, and I mean, there are people for different audiences have different 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 uses for movies. Like, you see a lot of people who watch movies like this and they say, oh, this movie was very beautiful and entertaining with a lot of great messages. Okay, that's cool. Me, I usually want to be impacted emotionally, visually, intellectually. This doesn't offer any of that, but I don't think it's trying to. So I think it's a fine movie. It's good. I would recommend it to somebody who I thought was into this kind of thing.
All right. Creative Fingers, please give us your summary.
Okay. I think it was a great thing that Jenna went before me because I feel like his summary just fits in mine totally, and I enjoyed it. The performances, I laughed at some point. Obi's performance too was great, and yeah, looking forward to more Kunle Afolayan's films definitely because we get to see the beauty of Nollywood.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to read Vanessa's summary just because you guys won't believe what she's done again. She's also called me awesome. I don't know. This is just embarrassing. But she's also added, I really liked this and would watch again and recommend. Short and sweet. Mr. C, what?
I think you're forgetting somebody. It's okay.
Forgetting quotes, but yes. Sorry, you go. Please go.
This is not the first or the third time.
Oh,
it
if
has
I
happened, but
thought,
it's
okay, I will fight for you, okay? Don't
Thank
worry.
you. Thank you. Maybe because I am an AI at this point with summaries, but so the only objective use for a movie is on a Sunday night or any day of the week that you come back. It's supposed to entertain you, give you relief, right? And I feel like this is a good, solid movie. Even it had a theme and it worked directly to that theme. It made everything connect to that theme, to what it wants to say. And it's a movie that you won't be confused about what it wants to tell you. And it's well entertaining. Yes, there's some sound issues. It's okay, whatever. And as I always say, on a Sunday night, you do your work, you want to relax, whatever. Play it, give it 30 minutes. If it doesn't do for you, change it. There's a lot of movies in this world. In fact, there's so much. Too much. Change it. Watch one of those things that actually connect to you. For me, it's an okay movie. It's a solid movie. It's good.
All right. Thanks, Anka. I'm going to read out Viv's somewhat kind of summary. Not gonna lie, following the tracks and finding the diamonds was so weird. I was so not convinced, but I love this film, man. Ijogbon was refreshing. All right, Mrs. C.
So I will not be rewatching this movie. I had to watch it twice, and that was hard for me. It's by no means the worst thing we've had this year, but it's also not the best. And I don't think this is what we should be getting from a filmmaker of Kunle's experience and acclaim, should I say. So yes, I liked the premise, but it dragged and I found it uninspiring.
Yeah, all right. So for me, let me see. There are a couple of I had a pushback head and said I'm going to use the opportunity to say, and I was like, and Mrs. Steven said she loved Sam Dede's performance, and I was like, I think like a lot of the love for Sam Dede is coming from the fact that he's not wearing tight leather, because I didn't think he was bad, but like I mean, like he's playing a comedic reverend role. It's fine. I didn't find any of his scenes funny, but like that's not what I'm judging his performance by, right? Like I just felt it was okay. Nothing to I know the jokes weren't the jokes were not written for me. They were not written for me, but you know, praying in the middle of like where they've just seen dead bodies. Oh yeah, very funny. But I thought it was okay. I just didn't. I think people are just more. They're just comfortable seeing Sam Dede not in a role that actually fits his cast, which again, Kunle does good casting. Anyway, but my summary is generally this film is maybe an octagon, maybe a hexagon that I think if you take enough steps back, it looks smooth like a circle, right? It looks, look, the story they found diamonds and, this happened. Like, I agree that it feels focused. It's just that almost everything, if this was a house, like all the things they used in like the building blocks are made of the cheapest product. And I wouldn't live in that house because I would not be able to secure my safety. It feels like duct tape was used where, you should have used Dangote cement. Yeah. And this is not sponsored by Dangote. Although if you want to sponsor, anyway, but I felt like I felt very honestly bored by it. I'm with Pearl there in that I didn't feel much. It was just, oh, okay. And because like some people have pointed, there's nothing sometimes there's nothing too wrong about it, but it doesn't do anything particularly that great, with the exception of Mommy Amalbi, that I thought she gave really an exceptional performance, and I can't wait to see her do something again. Anyway, but
I don't know that that's good. But if you've seen anything else she's been in.
Really? No, I haven't. But I was going to say I'm going to look out for her because she can't be this. She was so good in this. I have to feel like
this was definitely the best performance of her life.
Oh wow! Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Well done.
Okay, thanks. Take away this small silver lining. All right, and anyway, but I appreciate everybody. Thanks. I'm hoping to read something from Vivian, who likes it. I do like her views. But thanks for everybody, whether you agree or disagree with us. Thanks for coming to discuss this. We appreciate you. We are Nollywood Film Club. We will be here back next Sunday, 6 p.m. Watt. And I don't know what we will be discussing, but I'll put up a poll and we'll see. But thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate you and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed listening and would like to join live, just follow us on Twitter at Iroko Critic and join us every Sunday, 6 p.m. West African time on our spaces.